It became one of the biggest, most talked about stories in the entire country. And it all started here in the heart of the Bible Belt, in this small church in the tiny town of Selmer, Tennessee. Matthew Winkler would preach to his congregation every Sunday morning here about right and wrong and about living your life in the service of God.
On March 22nd, 2006, everyone was gathering at the church, ready for the Wednesday night service.
Matthew Winkler was pretty new at being the new head preacher, so he certainly didn't miss any services.
It's unheard of for the preacher, his wife, and his daughters who are there every week, and they don't show up.
But even though they kept watching the door, waiting for him to come through it with apologies and messages of love for the congregation, it never happened.
Overcome with worry and concern, some of the members of the congregation take a 5-minute drive to the church parsonage behind me. It's where the minister, Matthew, his wife, and 3 children lived. Once inside, the church members make a shocking discovery.
We were knocking on the windows, knocking on the doors. At that point is when I felt that something was wrong, because the key was on the inside of the door, the TV was on, and there was no answer.
At some point, they go inside the home, walk through, calling his name, calling Mary's name, calling for the girls.
We're yelling, "Is anyone in here? Can anybody hear us?"
They looked around. No Mary, no little girls. Everything looked normal, nothing looked out of place. But the master bedroom door was shut. They walked over and opened it, and all their nightmares were answered.
Saw Matthew laying there on his back. A foam was protruding from his mouth and nose. We knew pretty obviously that he was dead at that time. So we called 911, and then we all gathered in the living room and held hands and prayed for Mary and the children, because we had assumed that they had been abducted.
Church members couldn't fathom who would kill their preacher. This was a man who, in fact,
It's in his blood, literally. Mary grew up in a Church of Christ family also.
Mary was raised in a strict household in Knoxville, Tennessee. At South Doyle High School, she was known as a reserved student with a good sense of humor.
She didn't draw a lot of attention to herself. That's also true of many women in the Churches of Christ Church. They don't want to bring a lot of attention on themselves.
Mary was cute as a button. She was always ready with a smile and a touch on the hand, and she just was the perfect embodiment of a Church of Christ woman.
Mary and Matthew met at Freed-Hardeman College. It's a college affiliated with the Church of Christ. And Mary has said that initially they were just friends, but then they started dating, and apparently Matthew must have liked her, because 3 months later he asked her to marry him.
both Matthew and Mary dropped out of school because they couldn't afford it anymore. And then Matthew got work as a youth minister in McMinnville, Tennessee. How would you describe the Church of Christ to someone who's not familiar with it?
It's very conservative, a Bible-based church. We say we have no creed but the Bible.
They believe in the literal interpretation of the Bible. And there are scriptures in the Bible that says that a woman is subservient to the man. Board of elders, the preacher, all of those in the leadership positions are men.
Tell me about Matthew's temperament.
Gregarious, somebody who could go into a room of strangers and make friends within minutes.
Magnetic personality.
Magnetic personality.
Your impression of Mary?
Mary seemed like a frail and vulnerable woman. She had a downcast look. She would not make eye contact, and she was walking 3 or 4 steps behind Matthew.
Matthew had this feeling he couldn't measure up to his father. He bristled under just being a youth minister. He wanted to be the preacher of his own church.
It was in January of 2005 that Matthew and Mary Winkler moved here to the town of Selmer. Matthew had just landed his dream job, named the head pastor here at the Church of Christ.
Selmer is a sleepy little town in Tennessee, right by the border with Mississippi. It is a place where people sit out on their porch drinking sweet tea and talking with their neighbors as they walk by. It's very Southern in so many ways.
One of Elvis Presley's first outside of Memphis performances was here in this county. The highway going through Selmer to Elvis's home is called Rockabilly Highway.
What is this town like?
Small town.
Yeah.
Close, unit family.
Pretty religious? I see a lot of churches here.
Yes. Almost every corner you'll find a church.
True happiness is found in God's Word. True happiness is not only found in God's Word, it's found by living the way God says to live in that Word.
The Winklers found a wonderful church in Selmer, Tennessee, and the people of the community and congregation embraced them and welcomed them. It seemed like the perfect scenario. That is, until March 22nd of 2006, when that beloved young minister was found dead on the floor of his bedroom.
Was it a kidnapping? And it just went wrong.
Someone definitely intended to kill Matthew Winkler.
In a small town, people were frantic, thinking there was a killer on the loose.
And where were Mary and the girls?
Had someone unknown come into the home, killed Matthew, and gone off in the family van with the 3 girls and Mary, holding them captive.
On March 21st, 2006, in the small town of Selmer, Tennessee, Matthew and Mary Winkler, along with their 3 little girls, settled in for a quiet evening at home. They order pizza and watch the animated movie Chicken Little.
The sky is falling! The sky is falling!
But somehow, this everyday peaceful family activity would turn into a gruesome crime scene with seemingly deadly intention.
Matthew Winkler was shot in the back with a 12-gauge shotgun. 12-gauge shotgun is either used to hunt or personal protection, and it's used to kill. My initial thought was someone definitely intended to kill Matthew Winkler.
Members of the 4th Street Church of Christ find their beloved minister, Matthew Winkler, dead in his home, just minutes away from the sanctuary. They immediately call the police. Where were you when you got the phone call?
I was at home, of course, in bed, or getting ready to go to bed. Then I immediately started reaching out to the agents and the crime scene team to get them to start responding to this location.
When the police came into the house, they cleared all the church members out, but they interviewed them as well and started picking apart the scene, looking for anything that could give them information.
They would have started with the interior, taking photographs, taking measurements.
Nothing was out of place. It wasn't ransacked, looking for valuables. But what would stand out is when you got to the back bedroom.
There were blood stains on the pillows. There were blood stains on the floor.
Matthew was laying beside the bed and that's where he was found.
But you think he was shot while he was still in bed?
Yes, and he would have rolled over.
Investigators were thinking of a lot of things that this scenario suggested.
You have someone fatally wounded. No one else is around. Is this some type of robbery that had turned into murder?
Was this a vendetta or was it a kidnapping? And it just went wrong.
At that point, you don't know?
You don't know. I mean, it's a mystery.
What do we have here?
This is actually the bed.
This is the
That
bed.
would have been where he was sleeping.
Could have been shot from here or from here.
Well, probably from this side.
Right.
He was shot on the bed, so that tells you that the shooter had no confrontation with him. There was no defense that Matthew could have put up, being that he was shot in the back.
And this is the shotgun shell.
It's actually the round that killed him.
Over here, this is the bird shot.
That's some of the bird shot.
Recovered from his body.
Correct.
This is the actual shotgun.
Yes, sir.
Can you show it to us?
That's 12 gauge pump.
What kind of damage can it do? Close up.
Well, lots of damage.
A 12-gauge shotgun shooting birdshot. When it makes impact, it's going to explode with all of these pellets. And Matthew had somewhere over 70 pellets in his back.
And for investigators, each crime scene tells its own story. And this one would reveal a chilling detail. It seemed that the perpetrator wanted to seal Matthew's fate with absolute certainty.
They were very disturbed when they noticed the telephone clearly placed in a position that was out of Matthew's reach. And it was disconnected from the wall jack.
So the killer unplugged the phone.
Yes.
So no one could call anywhere for help.
That's what we believe. Even if he was able to survive or even live long enough to reach up and grab the receiver and hit zero, it wasn't going to work.
There is breaking news that we've been following all day out of Selmer, Tennessee. It is a case of tragedy in a small town. A church pastor is dead.
While investigators were combing through the crime scene, news of the death of the much-beloved preacher Matthew Winkler shook Selmer to its core.
And, you know, it's just shock. Everybody's just in shock about it.
This is the 4th Street Church of Christ here in Selmer, and all day long, church members have been coming and going. You can see it in their faces how distraught they are about the death of Pastor Matthew Winkler.
Who would have done something like this? Everybody loved him from what we understood.
People were frantic, thinking that there may be a killer somewhere in their community.
And do police have a motive they're working on, any kind of theory here?
Now, they are telling us very, very little about this.
Matthew was often approached by people who had addiction problems or financial problems. What if Matthew turned one of those people away? What if they had come back in anger?
An Amber Alert is issued for 3 little girls.
Police need to find Mary Winkler, 1-year-old Brianna, 6-year-old Mary Alice, and 8-year-old Patricia.
They, along with their gray minivan, were missing. Were they in danger?
An Amber Alert is issued for 3 little girls. They disappeared from their home in Selmer, Tennessee. Their mother is missing as well. Church members found their father, Pastor Matthew Winkler, dead.
With the young minister found dead in his bedroom, the community of Selmer was on edge.
There was a possibility this could have been a burglary that turned into murder.
Who is here in our community would do that? You know, this person's loose. People were worried.
Take a look at the van the mother and the children may be in. It is a 2006 gray Toyota Sienna.
The most important thing to them right now is to find Mary Winkler and find the 3 girls.
Almost 24 hours after the discovery of Matthew's body, there's a sighting of a gray minivan matching the description of the Winklers' missing vehicle. It was spotted in the seaside community of Orange Beach, Alabama.
That shoreline is particularly spectacular. They call it the Gold Coast of Alabama.
1025, get there. I was traveling westbound on the road directly behind us.
That's it. 10-4, that's the vehicle.
And this van pulled right out in front of me, a Toyota Sienna minivan, matching the description of the van we'd been looking for.
10-4, we're pulling in the parking lot, 1033.
Knowing that there was a possibility that Mary and her girls had been kidnapped, they were extremely cautious approaching that vehicle. They had their guns out.
Ma'am, get out of the vehicle. Get your hands out of the vehicle now! Yeah, step out of the vehicle. Put the vehicle in park and step out.
There she was, Mary Winkler, in a pink jumpsuit, looking as innocent as anybody walking down the street could look.
With no supposed kidnapper behind the wheel,
Walk back! Walk back! Keep walking!
Mary Winkler goes from being a potential victim to a suspect in her husband's death.
She got out and she never asked why she was stopped, why there was officers pointing guns at her or anything. She made no really expression on her face, and she was detained.
Hey girl, how you doing?
After we detained her, we ran to the minivan to check the welfare of the children. They just kept repeating, what's going on, where's mommy going?
Did my mommy do anything?
Shortly after Mary's arrest, police search the minivan and they make a stunning discovery.
It was soon after Mary was apprehended by the Orange Beach Police Department. A shotgun was found in the minivan.
You've heard the term, we found the smoking gun. Well, that's exactly what we thought. We had found the smoking gun, and it was just our job now to put the facts and the details together.
Back in 2006, Stan Stabler was a corporal with the Alabama Bureau of Investigation.
I received a call from Orange Beach Police Department that evening. They requested that I come to interview Mary Winkler.
It's March 23, it's about 9:55 p.m. We're at Orange Beach PD. I'm Stan Stabler with ABI. If you would just speak your name for me, please, ma'am.
Mary Winkler.
When we first started, I got a lot of background information about her, their marriage.
How long have you been married?
9 years, 11 months.
How was your marriage?
Good.
We talked about the children.
I met your daughters, and very sweet girls. Had McDonald's, they eat, and they're wrapped up in blankets, warm, watching a movie.
Thank you.
I wanted to build a rapport with Mary where she felt comfortable with me.
Something to drink?
Water's fantastic.
Okay.
Sitting across from him is this eerily calm mother of three, 400 miles away from home. Stan Stabler wondered why did Mary Winkler drive her girls all the way to Orange Beach, Alabama?
They've never been to a beach that they remember. This is just my last time to be with them. I just wanted to be with them before they had bad days. To have a happy day.
She wanted to spend some time with the girls because she felt that she would not be seeing them after she was caught.
I asked her about anyone else involved, an affair.
Y'all didn't have any major problems going on?
No.
Anybody else involved with either party?
Oh, no.
She was not as emotional as a person should be if they learned about the murder of their spouse.
Just go step from step and tell me what happened.
I just can't.
Why can't you talk to us? Is it me?
No.
I mean...
No.
She was very strong-willed not to disclose a lot of details.
I want to hear your side.
I appreciate I feel like you have genuine concern, and I do appreciate you.
Tell me why a mother of three, a wife of over 9 years, almost 10 years, What would make you do this? Why?
No comment.
It was a very, very strange interview.
Has he ever hurt you?
Not physically.
She said she did not want to talk about Matthew because she didn't, quote, want to smear him.
No matter what, in the end, I don't want him smeared.
All we are seeking the truth. And we're not here to smear anybody.
Corporal Stabler asks Mary about that shotgun that police suspect she used to kill her husband.
Did you load it?
I messed it up and put it back.
Where was it?
We keep it in the top of the closet out of reach.
The truth started coming out. Mary admitted she was holding that gun. She didn't admit that she pulled the trigger. She said she didn't remember that.
How many times did you shoot? Just one time?
Surely not.
Huh?
Surely not.
How do you know you didn't shoot more than once?
I don't.
And then finally, after almost 2 hours of questioning, a possible motive.
I love you dearly. But gosh, he could just nail me in the ground. I have nerve now, and I have self-esteem. And so my ugly came out.
When the ugly side came out, somebody ended up shot dead.
For almost 2 hours, Corporal Stan Stabler prods Mary Winkler about her relationship with her late husband, Matthew.
Mary Winkler eventually, during that interview in Alabama, did tell investigators that he picked on her. What she was describing as someone who was abusive.
How would he run you down?
Just chewing on you, yeah.
Just fussing at you,
Just
nagging all the time?
mistakes. And some well-deserved, by all means.
I think it's old.
But gosh, I don't want to talk about that now. I love you dearly. But gosh, he could just nail me in the ground. Which I just took it like a mouse. Didn't think anything different. I never spoke up.
She told me he was a good man. He was a good father. He was a good husband. She said, you know, at times he would get mad. She related it to blood pressure problems.
But he was so good. He was so good, too. A lot of times he had high blood pressure, but he'd never go enough to the doctor to get medicine for it. There's no sense, you know, just say the lady was a moron, evil woman.
She said she had had thoughts in the past about killing him.
Yeah, I didn't just get up and say, hey, let's see how this thing works. I've been battling it not to do that for him, and I don't know why.
Was he chewing on you when it happened?
I don't even know.
Mary had said that she got a job. Then she said her self-esteem started coming out. And then she started speaking up about things she didn't like.
I have nerve now, and I have self-esteem. And so my ugly came out.
When the ugly side came out, somebody ended up shot dead. So that's what Mary's ugly side is. The side that shoots her husband in the back with a shotgun.
Mary waived her right to an extradition hearing and willingly went back to face justice in Tennessee.
While in Tennessee, investigators from the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation take another statement from Mary, which she initials.
And this time, Mary drops a few bombshells about the morning Matthew was killed. While she never admits to pulling the trigger of the shotgun, Mary does tell TBI agents she heard a loud boom, wiped blood from Matthew's mouth, and told him she was sorry.
It became real obvious that there was only one thing for the police in Tennessee to do, and that was to charge her with murder.
The startling account of a pastor's wife accused of killing her husband becomes big national news.
This is Good Morning America.
That murder mystery that has stunned everyone. A popular minister in Tennessee gunned down in his home, and the confessed killer is his young wife. Why?
People were wondering what would cause them to have their ugly come out.
Knowing Mary the way I did, I knew that he had to do something to push her over.
Mary's sisters say they saw a change in Mary once she got married.
I don't remember hearing her laugh. She was not a happy person.
Mary's other sister, Amanda, and her father, Clark, say they saw bruises on Mary.
I didn't say anything because if I was to say, who gave that to you, and that would make her mad, I wouldn't see her again.
I saw terrible bruises, the heaviest of makeup covering facial bruises. So one day I confronted her and I said, Mary Carol, you are coming off as a very abused wife. And Mary Carol would hang her head and say, no, Dad, everything's all right, everything's all right. And several times I talked very seriously to her about leaving him, and she just did not want to. I feel so bad about this. I feel like I have a part in it. I should have talked more to Mary Carol.
There were people who said that they did see a short temper in Matthew. According to the neighbor, that their dog had gotten into the Winkler yard, and Matthew yelled at the neighbor.
He said, keep that damn dog out of our yard or we'll shoot him. He had a temper on him. I've never met a preacher like him.
This never rose where it was ever a volatile encounter with somebody. It was just being stern, like the dog, hey, please do this. I've warned you.
As investigators dig deep into the Winklers' lives, they come to believe that Matthew's killing may actually have been about money.
That's what was the root of the evil in this whole situation.
According to them, Mary was knee-deep in financial fraud, and investigators suspect that weighing heavily on her mind was an upcoming trip to the local bank.
The bankers set a meeting for Mary and Matthew to meet at the bank on March 22nd.
I think she was desperate and afraid.
Mrs. Winkler is set for arraignment before a McNairy County judge.
After Matthew's death, Mary appeared in a Selmer courtroom, trading in her Sunday best for an orange jumpsuit.
It was somewhat of a shocking vision because she just does not look like anyone who could do anything like shoot her husband.
State of Tennessee versus Mary Carol Winkler. You're charged under Tennessee Code with first-degree murder.
After pleading not guilty to first-degree murder, Mary is led away in shackles.
Outside of the courthouse, church members stood in solidarity with the preacher's wife.
We had a special prayer for her at church last night, and we forgave her.
It's in God's plan, but there has to be a reason, because if we can't believe that, we cannot go on.
Mary's supporters believe that her years of alleged abuse culminated in the accidental shooting death of her husband. But investigators say the real motive in this case was money.
Early on in the investigation, TBI was interviewing local banks And they more or less came to the TBI and said, we got to tell you what's going on here.
Investigators have learned from bank officials that Mary was in over her head financially.
After they say she got caught up in a so-called lottery scam, which was sweeping the country.
A lottery scam is when you get email or even a letter that tells you that you have won a lottery.
Here's how it works. The scammer sends a counterfeit check for an initial payment worth thousands of dollars. Now, in return, you're supposed to send them money to cover the processing fees.
The scammers make money off what you send them. Meanwhile, all you get is a worthless check.
Mary had entered all sorts of things. So when she got this saying that she'd won $250,000, she believed him.
What do we have here?
These are bogus checks.
So Mary Winkler got these checks in the mail.
Yes.
And she thought, wow, $4,880, $4,900.
Yeah. You're going to receive lots more once you send us the money, but she did not send the money back. She kept all the money. Back in those days, if a person deposited a check or cashed a check, they would actually receive the complete amount of money because it immediately went into your bank account.
Back then, you just didn't have the automation like you have today. So it could take weeks for the checks to come back as counterfeit. So when that happened, the banks wanted their money back from Mary, over $16,000.
And that is when investigators allege Mary cooked up a scheme of her own to cover her losses.
She was actually writing checks for one bank to cover checks at another bank.
What investigators say Mary was doing is called check kiting, floating funds between banks, and that's where the kite comes in.
And in doing so, she knew that she didn't have the funds in that bank to cover the charges, and that is an illegal act.
It's easy to see how desperation can lead you down that path where you're trying to find a way out and you don't know what to do.
Was there any evidence that Matthew, her husband, the minister, was in on this or knew about it?
We have no evidence because he never went to the bank. He never had his name on anything. These other accounts was in her name, so he wouldn't have access to her accounts.
According to investigators, Mary went to great lengths to conceal her alleged financial crimes from Matthew.
They say she opened up a personal account out of town, changed her mailing address to a P.O. box,
and she even tried to remove Matthew's name from their bank account. But investigators say Mary's alleged financial scheme fell apart after one late deposit sent her bank account into a tailspin.
I think it got a little out of hand because she got at some point like $5,000 overdrawn, which is a really bad position to be in. $5,000 in 2006 on a small town pastor's pay and a substitute teacher. You might as well say $100,000.
Things came to a head on March 21st, 2006. That day, Mary Winkler was working as a substitute teacher here at Selmer Elementary School. She receives an urgent call from the bank asking her to come in the very next day to clear up her overdrawn account. And they tell her to bring her husband, Matthew, along.
In fact, in this statement to TBI, Mary admitted to having a heated discussion with Matthew about their finances the night before the shooting. She says, "I had gotten a call from the bank, and we were having troubles, mostly my fault, bad bookkeeping." And then she goes on to say that the two were upset with each other and that she got to a point and snapped.
Do you think this is why she killed him?
Oh yes, that somebody's gonna have to face the music and it was gonna come back on her.
There must have been a lot of pressure on Mary to keep that away from Matthew. It was going to be embarrassing for the Church of Christ congregation. It was going to speak very loudly that something's amiss in this family. It's a reflection of the church. It's a reflection of God.
How's Mary feeling?
Prosecutors might think this is an open and shut case, but as Mary's murder trial gets underway, no one could imagine the twists and turns to come.
Mary Winkler had what appeared to everyone a marriage made in heaven, but behind closed doors, it was a living hell.
Ms. Winkler, if you'll come forward, please, ma'am.
And when the demure preacher's wife takes the stand, dark and lurid details would soon come to light.
Did it hurt you?
Yes, sir.
Oh my goodness gracious.
This is stuff that doesn't happen.
And now he's got a hellacious shotgun wound in his back. And his wife wants you to believe that she was driven to it.
She certainly wasn't acting like someone who shot her husband in the back.
I don't know that anyone anywhere had any idea of what was to come in this trial.
So it got heated in the jury room.
How are you going to defend yourself? He threatened me with the shotgun many times, putting it in my face.
Mary Winkler appeared to have had a marriage made in heaven, but behind closed doors, it was a living hell.
When they brought out the shoe and the wig, there was a gasp in the courtroom.
Matthew wanted me to wear it to dress up.
Dress up for what purpose, Mary?
Sex.
Oh my God, wow.
That if you looked up spousal abuse in the dictionary, you're going to see Mary Winkler's picture looking back at you.
Was Mary Winkler a victim or a villain?
Will the real Mary Winkler please stand up?
A grand jury had indicted Mary Winkler on a first-degree murder charge for the killing of her preacher husband, Matthew Winkler. She pled not guilty and went back to McMinnville after her father posted her $750,000 bond. Mary's 3 girls continued living with Matthew's parents, whom they'd been with since Mary's arrest.
Everywhere, everyone was covering the story of Mary Winkler. When you put the story in a nutshell, this preacher's wife shoots her husband in the back while he's sleeping, and then takes her daughters to the beach. That sounds outrageous. Absolutely outrageous. How can you not follow that story?
Well, people were wondering what would bring someone to this breaking point. What would cause them to have their ugly come out? And I think that was the big question.
And the fact this happened in the heart of the South, in the Bible Belt, was like fascinating to people because it wasn't supposed to happen. These are supposed to be godly people. Well, you know, godly does not mean perfect. And Mary proved that very well.
So this is the cleaners where Mary worked?
Yes. We're at the dry cleaners, Dry Cleaning Express, where Mary worked during her bond supervision. I would have to come and check on her.
What were your impressions of her during that bond period?
She was just real quiet, reserved.
We all just really loved her, and, you know, we got to be good friends. And we picked up a lot of new customers from her church that has decided to do business here because they want to be supportive of Mary.
But one question dividing the people of the town following the case at the time: was Mary actually the quiet preacher's wife everyone thought they knew, or was there another side to her, like the one Libby St. John and her husband at the time saw one night at a restaurant in McMinnville?
Well, we had been in there sitting at the bar, and Mary came in, and she was chain smoking cigarettes and drinking. It just seemed like she was so carefree that evening that it just shocked me. I almost wanted to go over there and say, listen, this isn't a good idea for you to be doing this. The owner of that establishment said while she was out on bond, she'd been there to celebrate several different occasions and her birthday recently. And so she'd been there several times. It just wasn't a one-off. You don't usually see Church of Christ preachers' wives smoking. She certainly wasn't acting like someone who'd shot her husband in the back.
And your husband at the time starts taking pictures.
He took them with his cell phone. The pictures made quite a splash when they came out.
These cell phone pictures, first obtained by Action News 5, are the talk of this quiet town.
I remember the bar pictures, the very things that seemed completely out of character from what anybody's seen.
She was not supposed to be drinking.
Well, I think that basically it was not excessive alcohol. I think that's what was on the bond.
But it didn't look good.
No, I'm sure it didn't look, no, it probably didn't look good. Didn't sit well with people.
The way this came to us, this was like walking into a Kafka novel. Nothing lines up with logic.
Her life was taking some strange turns that didn't make any sense.
Her outward appearance changed, her clothing changed. It was like someone flipped a switch.
And when she started kind of hanging out at night, there was a feeling that this was a little quick. Why are you doing this? Maybe were you that the whole time? And it just gave people pause.
Will the real Mary Winkler please stand up? Is she the quiet, docile minister's wife, or is she something quite different?
With the trial gearing up, everyone was about to hear a tale they never expected from the preacher's wife.
Yeah, I don't know that anyone in Selmer, and few people anywhere, had any idea of what was to come in this trial.
Mary's murder trial began on April 9, 2007, with the prosecution pushing for a first-degree conviction. The case was one of the biggest things the small town of Selmer, Tennessee has ever seen. The media put this tiny courthouse right in the middle of the public's attention.
Television stations from Nashville, from Memphis, some from Huntsville, Alabama, were there in the courthouse because this was such a big story.
What was interesting was Mary Winkler arriving with her attorneys, appearing about as meek as you could appear.
Inside, the courtroom was packed, and the crowd included members of both families.
You had Matthew Winkler's parents there. Mary Winkler's family was there, her father.
We may begin with opening statements. The state may proceed first.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Walt Freeland. I'm an assistant district attorney. My strategy, like in every case, is to put on all my facts, because facts are stubborn things. You have to set aside whatever you think might have happened and just listen to the facts. There is no good reason why Matthew Winkler was murdered by Mary Winkler.
The jurors are about to hear Mary's interrogation tape, where she says she snapped because of Matthew.
He would knock his self-esteem down?
No, just chewing whatever. And that's the problem. I have nerve now, and I have self-esteem, and so my ugly came out.
Just kind of got to a boiling point and just boiled over.
There's no sense, just say the lady was a moron, evil woman, and let's go on with it.
Prosecutors bring out that big, powerful shotgun that was used to kill Matthew. The point being to show the jurors that this could not have been an accident.
You couldn't just pick the gun up and pull the trigger unless it had been racked.
Could you prime it or pump it or whatever it takes to get it in a functioning position? Could you do that?
Yes, sir.
By racking the shotgun, it places a shotgun shell in the chamber so it can be fired. The fact that she did tells me she had already thought in her mind what it was going to be like to shoot that shotgun. All that leads me to believe premeditation.
But to rebut the prosecution's theory of premeditated murder, the defense will call their star witness.
The defense calls the defendant, Mary Carol Winkler.
The only person alive who knows exactly what happened the day Matthew was killed.
Somebody's looking for the truth, the whole truth, so help you God.
Yes, I do.
The most important witness in this trial, the one that everyone anticipated, takes the stand. And she testifies to some pretty shocking stuff.
The jury has just heard audio of Mary Winkler's interrogation, where she seems to imply that she suddenly snapped because of her husband Matthew's treatment of her.
I have nerve now, and I have self-esteem. And so my ugly came out.
Prosecutors tell the jury that Mary's real motive for the killing had nothing to do with Matthew's treatment of her. Instead, they say that the motive was about that alleged financial fraud they claim she was knee-deep in.
This was a premeditated act because Mary Winkler was in control.
Although investigators believe that the money was the motive in this case, they never charged Mary with any financial crimes.
She was the one that handled the finances. The finances were in shambles.
A bank investigator testifies that Mary had allegedly been scamming banks out of thousands of dollars by writing checks to herself and then floating money from one account to another.
These deposits were drawn off of the same bank, First State Bank, and were deposited within days of each other into the ATM at Regions.
So this check from Mary Winkler to Mary Winkler for $2,000 was deposited in the Mary Winkler personal account on March 20th, 2006.
Correct.
March 22nd, 2006, Mary Winkler and her husband Matthew were supposed to go to the bank and explain where the money came from, where the money went, and how they were going to pay it back.
The house of cards which she had set up was falling down. March 22nd was the day it ended up that he was shot.
The prosecution claimed that Mary killed her husband Matthew because of the deep financial hole that she had dug for herself. But when it was the defense's turn, they painted a very different picture of Mary, claiming she was the victim in this case and Matthew was the villain.
Mary Winkler appeared to have had a marriage made in heaven, but behind closed doors, it was a living hell. The proof will show that Mary was his whipping boy.
Part of the defense strategy was to put Matthew on trial. They put on the stand a church secretary who claimed she overheard some really harsh words coming from Matthew to Mary.
The tone, the sounds were of anger, berating.
What did you say to Matthew?
Those are things that a husband shouldn't say to a wife. You are to be a leader by example and not by force.
Another witness to take the stand was Mary's own sister, Tabitha. And she said Mary complained that Matthew tried to keep her away from her family and control her every move.
How would he act to her?
He pretty much dictated anything that she did. She wasn't allowed to make any decisions for herself. She would have to say, I have to check with Matt, and it was usually no.
There was testimony from the defense about how Matthew could act aggressively, but there was not a lot of information. And the jury may have thought, well, if he was this awful man, wouldn't more people have seen more?
Defense ready to call us next witness.
We are, Your Honor.
But the defense then called Mary herself, and she testified in explicit detail.
The defense calls the defendant, Mary Carol Winkler,
about exactly what she said happened behind closed doors.
Miss Winkler, if you'll come forward, please, ma'am.
As she took the stand, all eyes in the courtroom were riveted on Mary.
Mary Winkler was up there, appearing meeker than you would think anyone could. For much of the testimony, it appeared to be her head was down in shame.
Now remember, the state argued that Mary intentionally killed her husband to cover up a messy web of alleged fraudulent check kiting. But on the stand, Mary had a simple answer. Matthew made her do it.
Who directed those deposits?
Matthew told me where to put them, and I put them in the bank.
Mary also testified that Matthew knew that the banks were demanding answers over the financial issues with their accounts.
He was upset, and I just tried to continue encouraging him if he would please go in and do that.
Did he say he would?
He said he would, but he had been saying that for weeks.
Mary explained to the jury that she didn't stand up for herself because she was so afraid of Matthew's volatility, his temper.
How did he act when he yelled and screamed at you?
He flailed. He just was all over. He would just be furious. He went from certain threats to more serious threats.
Can you be specific to the jury about any threats?
He told me one time that he was going to cut the brake lines out of the van. He threatened me with the shotgun many times, putting it in my face. He told me if I ever talked back to him, that he would cut me into a million pieces.
Dan and Diane Winkler sat through a trial where they heard some awful things about their son, and it had to be very difficult for them. And their faces were stoic, but you could also see how it was affecting them too.
When I asked her about abuse, I said, well, you know, did he physically abuse you? And she said, oh no. I believe her to this day that he never abused her.
There was no indication from any of the people interviewed that Mary had ever disclosed it to them as a friend, or it never came out about any physical abuse. She described Matthew as being a fine man, and there was never a hint of any abuse.
But it turns out that Mary's testimony about alleged abuse on the part of Matthew was just the tip of the iceberg. This case is moving in another direction.
The one question that nobody will forget is when Steve Faris handed her a bag.
What's in that sack, Mary? Put it up on the
When she was testifying to all of this, oh my God, wow. This is amazing testimony. This is shocking testimony. Almost couldn't believe it.
On trial for the murder of her preacher husband, Matthew. Mary Winkler tells jurors that she was living in a marriage from hell.
I had asked Matthew to have a divorce, and he absolutely denied it. That would not be allowed.
That was not an option?
No, sir.
According to who?
Matthew.
Preachers can't get a divorce. People want to know, okay, how do you preach the things you preach and you're divorced?
Mary's defense team would also expose what they said was another dark side of the Winklers' marriage. One that would take this trial into a surprisingly different arena.
What's in that sack, Mary?
Shoe and a wig.
Show me the shoe that's in there. Put it up on the side there. kind of shoe that you would wear to church?
No, sir.
Where'd you get that wig, Mary?
From Matthew.
Well, why was that shoe bought, Mary?
Matthew wanted me to wear it to dress up.
Dress up for what purpose, Mary?
Sex.
When they brought out the shoe and the wig and put those on the witness stand, there was a gasp in the courtroom. It was just a moment in this case, I think, that everything turned. And then hearing the preacher's wife accuse her dead husband of all of these things that were not allowed in the Churches of Christ congregations. These were sins.
Mary testified that Matthew had porn up on a computer and wanted her to watch it.
What would occur after he'd asked you to look at the photographs?
Go have sex.
Did he ever ask you to engage in any type of sex that you felt was unnatural?
Yes, sir. He just wanted to have sex with my bottom.
Did it hurt you?
Yes, sir.
The people in the courtroom, when she was testifying to all of this, you could kind of see on their faces like, oh my God, wow, this is shocking testimony.
For the life of me, I have never understood how wearing platform shoes and a wig for your husband gives you the right to shoot him in the back with a shotgun.
While the details of the Winklers' sex life caused a huge buzz inside the courtroom, the questions at hand were why and how Matthew was shot to death. And for the very first time, people heard Mary talk about what she says happened that morning, describing how it all started with the cries of their baby daughter.
Matthew kicked me out of the bed. He just caught me somewhere in the low of my back and I was on the floor.
What happened next?
He walked out of the room and then I got up and went after him.
Mary said she then saw Matthew covering the baby's nose and mouth to keep her from crying, something that she said he had done before.
What was he doing?
Suffocating her. I said, could I please have her? He just threw his arms up and walked out and walked away from the crib.
Mary says she was so disturbed by this incident that she followed Matthew back to the bedroom and she wanted to confront him about it.
I just wanted to talk to Matthew.
What did you want to talk to him about?
I just wanted to stop being so mean.
Mary testified she was afraid to talk to her husband and then found herself holding Matthew's shotgun.
Do you remember ever having a gun, holding a gun?
Yes, sir.
Do you remember ever pointing a gun?
No, sir.
Did you pull the trigger?
No, sir.
Did you intentionally, purposefully kill your husband?
No, sir.
Did you love your husband?
Yes, sir.
You still love him?
Yes, sir.
Mary had been very vague and foggy about a gun going off, which is a classic defense statement. They use the passive voice. They don't say, I shot a gun. They say, a gun went off.
So what was it that led you into the position of accidentally shooting Matthew Winkler?
I just wanted to talk to him.
It wasn't an accident, was it?
Yes, sir.
You just wanted to talk to him and he wouldn't listen. So you shot him in the middle of the back while he was asleep. Now, has that memory come back to you, Miss Winkler?
No, sir.
You recall telling Agent Carpenter you remember hearing a loud boom and remember thinking it wasn't as loud as I thought it would be.
I don't recall telling him that.
Do you remember today if you told Matthew that you were sorry and that you loved him?
Yes.
The defense called a licensed psychologist to the stand who had met with Mary several times, and she testified that the reason Mary might not be able to remember the details of the shooting was because she had been traumatized by Matthew's treatment of her.
It's my professional opinion that Mary does suffer from a post-traumatic stress disorder, and at the time that this occurred, she was in a dissociated episode where.
Now the jury has a big decision. Couldn't Mary have gotten out of a bad marriage some other way? Or is she just a cold-blooded killer? This very debate is going to spark some fireworks in that jury room.
So it got heated in the jury room?
Very much so. Oh, I was ready to come across that table and strangle her.
This morning, the jury is in deliberations, and Mary Winkler's fate hangs in the balance.
Emotions ran high as jurors seemed hopelessly divided on whether Matthew Winkler's death was murder or a fatal accident.
There was some that didn't feel like she should get anything. They were ready to let her walk. They felt like he deserved what he got. And then you had some that was like, yes, she was abused, but she did take a life, and that she should get something out of it.
We were very stressed during that time because we didn't know how to work it out.
So it got heated in the
It
jury
did.
room?
Very much so.
I hear that you got frustrated because one of the jurors wouldn't even admit that she pulled the trigger.
Yes.
Refused to believe it.
And I looked at her and I was like, what? I was ready to come across that table and strangle her because I thought that was completely ridiculous.
The jury also had doubts about the prosecution's claim that Mary killed Matthew to avoid embarrassment over their alleged financial troubles.
People did not care about the money aspect of it. That was not what was on our minds.
Even though she was called by the bank to go see them the next day, the day he was shot?
No, at the very forefront was the abuse. It never wavered from the forefront of our thoughts.
The jurors could convict Mary of first-degree murder, second-degree murder, voluntary or involuntary manslaughter, and it's anyone's guess where they were going to go.
And now you are looking at a live picture inside the courtroom. There you see Matthew Winkler's family, and they're all waiting for the jury.
After 8 hours of deliberation, the jury had finally reached a verdict.
And members of the jury are expected to read that verdict coming up momentarily.
Ms. Winkler, if you could please stand, ma'am.
And in true Mary Winkler fashion, she remained stoic as the verdict was read.
We, the jury, find the defendant, Mary C. Winkler, guilty of voluntary manslaughter.
There was a little bit of a gasp in the audience. I don't know that many people expected her to be convicted of anything less than first-degree murder.
With voluntary manslaughter, there is an intent to kill, but you were provoked by something.
There you see Mary Winkler's father, and he looks a little bit surprised there.
To the shock of Mary's supporters and the dismay of Matthew's, Mary will face just 3 to 6 years behind bars.
Would this jury have allowed Mary to walk free?
Part of them would have.
No comment.
They felt like she had already lived through prison with the life that she lived, and that it was justified and that she deserved to be free.
That's why you compromised and agreed to the lesser charge?
Yes, because I didn't want her to walk.
In Tennessee, 33-year-old Mary Winkler is awaiting sentencing after being found guilty of killing her preacher husband.
Mary, how you feeling?
On June 8, 2007, everyone gathered in the courtroom for Mary's sentencing as she pled for mercy.
I think of Matthew every day in the guild, and I'll always miss him and love him. There were bad times, but there were good times, and I wish I could have that good Matthew and that we could live together forever.
If I were Matthew's parents, that statement would have felt like a kick in the teeth. It was so disregarding of their feelings on facing this reality.
Matthew was a wonderful person. He loved life, he loved his family, he loved the Lord God with all of his heart and soul and mind. The monster that you have painted for the world to see, I don't think that monster existed. There's been no remorse from you. You've never told your girls you're sorry. Don't you think you at least owe them that? You've never told us. You're sorry. I think you at least owe us that.
I can understand why a mother would more than ask that. And I would think a mother, as in Mary, would also want to apologize. The damage is done.
When the judge handed down the sentence, you could have heard a pin drop in that room.
The defendant is hereby sentenced to a term of 3 years. Her sentence is to be served in split confinement with 210 days of incarceration, with appropriate credit to be given.
With time served, Mary Winkler spent only 1 more week in jail in this very cell, and then 60 days in a mental health facility. To her supporters, it was a clear victory, but to others, it was nothing more than a slap on the wrist.
People were very shocked by that sentence and really couldn't believe it.
Matthew's parents had to feel betrayed by the system. They had to feel as if the jury had been played.
When you found out that she was going to get such a short sentence, what went through your mind?
I was heartbroken. Actually, I felt like I had failed. I felt like I had failed, like I didn't do my part, that I had let her off.
I believe she should have served more time, but we did what we did because that was all we could do.
After the trial, the town of Selma remained divided over whether Mary really got justice. Meanwhile, for Mary, the saga isn't over.
After the sentencing, the public thought, okay, that's it. They've heard everything, but it was not.
She wasn't finished talking. She wanted to tell her story to everyone.
Hey. Hi, Oprah.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Tell me why you wanted to have this conversation today.
After serving an additional 7 days in jail, Mary Winkler finished out the remainder of her sentence at an undisclosed mental health facility. And while there, she had a visitor on the weekends. Turns out, while she had been working at the dry cleaners, she struck up a relationship with her boss's brother. His name, Darryl Pillow.
I saw interest in Mary, and I thought Mary saw interest in me.
Darryl Pillow says sparks flew. It was instant attraction when he first met Mary at his brother's dry cleaners.
I was attracted to Mary. I mean, we do have a lot in common. You know, we laugh, we got the same hobbies. It felt very normal. It felt like it was meant to be, you know, that we was meant to be together. I know the first time that we sat on the couch and I hugged her and she said, oh, this is, you know, I've missed this, you know, and that's what she needed. She needed somebody to hold her and hug her.
I remember hearing that she may have had a new acquaintance.
She was just a very sweet girl. I mean, it felt normal to be with Mary. Now, I never felt scared or threatened. Our relationship was we had an adult relationship.
Even though Mary was in a mental health facility, Darryl says he would come to visit her on weekends. The two were able to get closer, and he says they even got to the point where they discussed marriage.
We kind of joked around about it, you know, but it wasn't nothing serious. It's not like we set a date or you know, maybe years down the road it may happen. I don't know. But you know, the option's there.
But soon after Mary was released from the facility, Darryl says she ended things with him.
She just said, Darryl, I've got to be single right now. And I said, that's fine. She needs to be focused on her children, and that's where she's at right now. She is focused on her children.
Since her arrest, even though she had visitation rights, Mary's 3 daughters had been living with Matthew's parents, Diane and Dan Winkler.
But once back in McMinnville and now living with friends, Mary is on a mission to get those 3 girls back.
Mary's got a long way to go, but she's on her road. She's on the way. She's gonna make it. Since she's gotten back home, the Mary that we came to know and love, the grinning, the cutting up, you know, she's back.
Mary was determined to fight, and one way she could do that was by being the perfect parolee.
How do you think her time in jail impacted her life.
Well, she had time to think about what happened, I'm sure, and reflect on what she had done, and I'm sure she wanted to get out so she'd get back with her children as soon as possible. Her children were very important to her.
She lives and breathes every day for those girls. What she wants to do is get on with her life, let people leave her alone, get her girls back, and mourn her husband. That's her words.
Now back home, the once shy and demure former preacher's wife, who wanted a quiet life, raised eyebrows again after making one of her first stops the Oprah Winfrey Show, telling Oprah she hoped by speaking out, her story might help others.
An Oprah exclusive. For the first time, Mary Winkler, the wife who killed her pastor husband.
Mary Winkler appeared on Oprah just as she appeared on the stand. Very soft-spoken, very meek and mild, and but I remember Oprah wasn't buying any of it. You know, Oprah didn't let her off the hook.
Was a shotgun in the baby's room?
No, we kept it in the closet. It's just, I can't, there's a lot of things that don't make sense to me.
Yeah. Well, imagine, it doesn't make sense to me either.
I know.
She kept prying and asking her and just telling her, okay, help me make sense of this.
The gun is aimed at him at some point. Do you remember that?
Well, no, because when I heard the boom, I just took out of there and took off running.
And then Mary explained to Oprah the importance of getting those girls back.
I'm their mother.
You killed their father.
I did not want any of this to happen.
Even though the girls had been living at Matthew's parents' home, the Winklers wanted to formalize it. They filed a lawsuit to adopt their granddaughters and terminate Mary's parental rights.
Mary Winkler looked happy and confident when she walked into the courthouse in Huntington for another showdown with her former in-laws over custody of her 3 daughters.
But there's still one more turn to come in Mary's roller coaster ride of a life.
Her life seems to be normal, except for one thing.
One more startling secret to reveal.
Something else had happened to Mary Winkler that was surprising, shocking.
Since her arrest, Mary Winkler has been locked in a custody battle with Matthew's parents. And finally, after months without her children, they reach an informal agreement out of court, giving Mary permission to take her 3 daughters back.
My girls are my girls, and I'm their mother, and we were just put back together, and we've picked up where we were separated.
I know.
Come here, Emma.
After finally getting her children back, Mary Winkler sits down for one more exclusive interview with Janice Broach to reveal yet another setback in her life.
Tonight, Mary Winkler is back, and she has a secret.
I had found out that Mary had been diagnosed with MS, multiple sclerosis.
My right hand and my right foot were completely disabled, could not use. And so I was very fortunate that I have been able to come back to full capacity.
17 years after she shot her husband, Mary Winkler lives a quiet life.
But to this day, there are still lingering questions in Selmer about whether justice was served in her case.
I believe that she actually got away with murder of her husband. Justice was not served, in my opinion.
Was Mary Winkler a victim or a villain?
Both.
Did Mary get away with murder?
Yes, she did.
She's going to have to answer for what she did. It's not up to me to forgive her. What she did is between her and Matthew and his family and God.
As for Matthew's parents, this tragedy that befell their son is still painfully close to their hearts.
His father, Dan, can be seen giving a sermon in this Palm Beach Lake's Church of Christ video posted on YouTube just last month.
18 years ago, trauma knocked on the front door of our house, and we lost a son. I live with that emptiness all of the time, and it's been almost 2 decades, but I remember the sound of his voice. And every time we sit down at a Christmas table as a family, there's an empty place.
Fourth of July. It's a day when people come together to celebrate our independence and the spirit of America. And that's what you'll see in Madison, Wisconsin.
4th of July celebrations have been going on all weekend, but of course Americans are going all out today.
The lakes are really core to the identity of Madison. Just being around water, being around nature is really big to a lot of people here.
Madison is Wisconsin's gorgeous capital city. Built on a strip of land connecting Lakes Monona and Mendota, generations of families have come here to lay roots. But as residents of a small town just north of here would come to know, secrets, lies, and betrayal don't stop at these shores.
Bart and Krista Halderson lived in a community called Windsor, just north of Madison. Everyone who knew the Haldersons loved them.
We used to have a horseshoe league. Bart and Krista were on a horseshoe team. We competed against them 2-3 times a year. And just being neighbors, they were just people that ran into all the time. Absolutely salt of the earth people were Bart and Krista. Their house always looked good. It was well manicured, it was well mowed, it was always taken care of.
There were competitions in the neighborhood about who had the best lawn and who cared the most about their yards, and Bart cared about his yard.
Krista is an administrative assistant for a local auto shop, and Bart is an accountant.
Bart and Krista, they weren't rich, but they were comfortable.
Yeah, they were just regular people trying to do their best.
She was the youngest cousin, bright red hair. She was the baby of the family.
Barbie Townsend grew up in Southern California, but would often visit her younger cousin Krista at the family's rustic cabin in northern Wisconsin.
Krista was fun, energetic, creative. She just was very exuberant, very outgoing.
Happy person, it sounds
Very
like.
happy, yeah. Loved her lot in life.
I know you got to know Bart a little bit later, but what was he like?
I was happy for her that she found her person, and they were a really good team.
They complemented each other.
Definitely, definitely. You know, he would have his strengths and she would have her strengths, but they always were together.
Barbie told me that nothing matters more to Krista and Bart than their 2 sons, Mitchell and Chandler.
They poured themselves into their children. They did family nights, game nights. They would cook dinner, barbecue together. In spring 2021, Krista had sent a picture of them all standing together. She was so proud of them. Mitchell had been with his girlfriend at that time about 7 years, and Chandler had been with Kat maybe 2 years, on and off.
Mitchell, the oldest, works in IT, and he lives with his fiancée, not far from his parents' home. And Chandler, an Eagle Scout, is a young man on the rise. He's working part-time for an insurance company, living at home while finishing his college degree. And that's not all.
Chandler had told his family about this great job opportunity he had been given with SpaceX. He would move to Florida, and actually he would bring his girlfriend with him.
Everything was going well for everyone. I don't know any family who wouldn't want to be in the situation the Haldersons were in.
But in June of 2021, the Haldersons' good fortune takes a turn.
Their eldest son, Mitchell, was diagnosed with diabetes. And then right after that, their younger son, Chandler, fell down a flight of stairs at the Haldersons' home.
He was taken to the hospital, and he was diagnosed with a head injury.
In that picture, on Father's Day of 2021, standing next to Bart, he's got the brace on. His neck was injured and was going to affect his ability to walk. He might have a colostomy bag. He couldn't fly, so he couldn't go back to Florida for the job. Like his whole life was going to change because he had this fall.
I know once he was in that neck brace, his job situation with SpaceX was kind of pushed on the back burner.
It seemed like he would not be able to take the job at SpaceX. He wouldn't be able to help around the house. He wasn't even able to walk properly. And after that, Chandler required help. His mother would assist him going up and down stairs, would bring him meals.
Although Krista doted on her sons in their time of need, she rarely missed a day of work. So on Friday morning, July 2nd, when she fails to show up at her job, co-workers are concerned.
Krista was one of these people who was always at work, and she always let people know what her plans were.
It's a Friday right before the 4th of July holiday, but she hadn't asked off. She hadn't told anyone she wasn't going to be there. It was really unusual for her to not show up for work. She'd never done it before.
She wasn't answering her phone. A co-worker decided to go over to the house and make sure she was okay. When he looked in the garage, both of the Haldersons' cars were there.
The Haldersons aren't here. Their cars are here. Where are the Haldersons?
Now, the Haldersons have a family cabin they love to go to on weekends. And initially, there's some speculation that this is where Bart and Krista are. But none of the neighbors saw them leave.
As far as we know, no one saw the Haldersons that day.
They told their neighbors when they were going up to the cabin, who they were going to be with, where they were going to be. So for there to be so many unknowns about what happened that weekend was a little unusual.
And when Krista fails to make a medical appointment on Monday, it really raises red flags.
She was recovering from some skin cancer, and so this was an important appointment for her.
Is it like her to just miss that appointment or not tell anybody she wasn't going to make it?
No, Chris is not the person that would just not show up.
Everyone who knows her says she wouldn't have missed that appointment. She was planning to be there, and then she wasn't. And that's when people really start to get concerned, because no one knows where Bart and Krista are.
All of a sudden, my wife comes in the bedroom and she says, the Haldersons are gone. They're missing. My mind went to the bad spot, like, that is not right. It was just kind of disturbing for somebody that I know that well to suddenly be gone.
What's going through your mind?
Something's really wrong. I don't know what and why and how, but something's really wrong.
The strange disappearance of Bart and Krista Halderson is a mystery, captivating local Wisconsiners.
Are we rolling?
We're rolling now.
Including a pair of podcasters.
I'm Jill.
And I'm Richard.
And we do the True Crime Brewery podcast. We're very fascinated with true crime and just love to really figure out what's going on behind the scenes.
Ready.
So, we've been talking more and more about these cases.
Their podcast, as the name suggests, mixes suds.
We pick a beer from the area the crime occurred.
With sleuthing.
Today we're covering a case from Wisconsin.
And have I got a beer for you?
I feel like it brings together the personality of the city where the crime happened. Bart and Krista Halderson, they are just everybody's neighbor, everybody's family member, just working hard, trying to take care of their children, trying to provide the best for their family.
Bart and Krista just loved the 4th of July. You could always catch them at the parade. It was probably their favorite holiday.
But that weekend, in July 2021, strangely, the couple are nowhere to be found.
Bart and Krista had not told anyone that they had a plan to go away for 4th of July weekend.
There's no explanation forthcoming as to why they're not there.
So the only time people heard from Bart and Krista over the 4th of July weekend was when Krista texted Chandler on July 4th.
The text to her son Chandler says they arrived at the family cabin 3 hours north. It read, "Made it safely. Love you lots."
Their friends learned that she had reached out to him, which made sense. She was a mom who talked to her kids all the time.
This is where we hung out and collected rocks and played games. Ooh. So this is early on. It's my dad, and that's the cabin in the background.
And that's Krista right there.
This is Krista.
I can always tell Krista by that shock of red hair.
Fiery red hair.
Yeah.
And she was the youngest.
The cabin has been in Barbie and Krista's family since the 1940s, when it was built by their grandfather.
That was like the heart and soul of our extended family. The cabin was our way to get back together and be together. There was no phone, no indoor plumbing, very rustic.
Sounds like this was a place where you and Krista really bonded.
The cabin was where we would reunite.
Chandler had told family members he knew his parents were going to the cabin for the weekend, but he was expecting them home by Tuesday the 6th. Now, Tuesday's come and gone, and the couple seems to have vanished. How did you learn that Bart and Krista were missing?
I got an email from my cousin that said, please pray, Bart and Krista are missing. And I remember thinking, what do you mean they're missing? I can't even comprehend what that means. And so we started calling cousins, like what's happening?
On July 7th, 6 days after Bart and Krista were last seen, Chandler heads to the Dane County Sheriff's Office to report his parents missing.
Chandler says, I haven't seen my parents. We need to start looking for them.
Detectives Sabrina Sims and Brian Shunk will lead the investigation, and they meet with Chandler later that day at the Halderson home in Windsor. At that point, you're here just trying to figure out what happened.
Yeah, just to ask more follow-up questions and trying to get the timeline of events.
His parents left around 5 a.m., basically left without a peep. From everything that you knew about Bart and Krista, was that the kind of thing they do?
No, we were learning from friends and family that that's completely out of character for them to not tell people where they were going.
Chandler tells detectives that his parents planned to fix a water pump and a fire pit up at the cabin, and that both were damaged in a recent storm. So he says he helped them pack supplies, including a pipe wrench, a hatchet, and gas cans for a chainsaw.
He also said that they brought alcohol and cash with them.
He mentioned they were maybe going to a casino to go gambling. We learned that it's out of character for them to go gambling and that the Haldersons, especially Bart, was pretty frugal with his money.
When investigators inspect the Halderson home, they see both Bart and Krista's cars are still in the garage.
Both their cars are still there. So what's going on with that? Chandler says, well, they went with this other couple. I don't know who they are, but they took the other couple's car.
Chandler tells detectives that his parents left in an unknown vehicle, and when detectives review neighbors' home security cameras, they spot a white van driving down the Halderson street in the early morning hours on Friday, July 2nd. Could this van be the vehicle driven by that mystery couple?
We were looking for a van. It was an unknown vehicle, and then we saw it on surveillance camera.
Hoping he might know who the couple is, investigators speak to Chandler's older brother, Mitchell, who lives close by. But he says as far as he knows, none of his parents' friends went with them to the cabin.
Nobody knew who that couple was. No phone numbers, no names, nothing. I mean, for them to drive up to the cabin with somebody that nobody even knew who they were, that was very odd. Where's the other couple? That was the other thing. Where's the other couple? Because no one's heard from them, whoever they are.
They're gone. Their cars are here. What are you thinking?
I think at that point we decided we need to send a team up to the cabin.
You've got to get to that cabin right now to figure out what happened.
Yeah.
I have to imagine your mind starts going to terrible places.
Yeah, your mind starts thinking all kinds of things.
And when investigators finally reach the cabin in the woods,
Sheriff's Office, make yourselves known.
What or who will be lurking in the shadows?
What's a little crawl space? Holy.
I'm Bill Callender. I'm a member of the Wolf River Fire Department and Rescue in Langlade County, northeast Wisconsin. With all the recreation we've got here, and we've got a big area, people do get turned around, they go missing, and then that's usually then when we get called out. The Wolf River area is really a nice area, fairly lightly populated, but we've got a lot of great recreation. We've got the Wolf River, very popular fishing stream, lots of recreational opportunities. We've got the rapids on the river go up to Class 3. We've got heavily wooded area. Much of our township is in the Chequamegon-Nicolet National Forest.
And Wolf River is the area where Bart and Krista Halderson had their family cabin and where they were supposed to spend the 4th of July weekend.
It's a beautiful place, but it can be a dangerous place. Like anywhere that's completely natural and completely wild, there are pitfalls to that. A river can easily become someplace you drown. The woods can easily become someplace you're lost. And so it's not unheard of for people to go missing in this area.
Now, back in July of 21, our chief got a call from one of the Langley County deputies and said that, we may be needed.
Cell service isn't fantastic out here either. Weather always seems to change, but crime never does.
I'm Detective Sergeant Groans with Langley.
On July 8th, I received a call to assist the Dane County Sheriff's Office with a search of the Halderson cabin. As an investigator, I was assigned a body camera, which was activated when we arrived at the property.
What's your relation? You're their son. Okay, all right.
So this footage we're looking at here, it's recorded by your body camera.
That's correct.
Okay. And who are you speaking to here?
This was Mitchell Halderson and his fiancée.
1 week after his parents mysteriously vanished, Mitchell tells investigators that he's so concerned about his parents' well-being that he and his fiancée make the 3-hour drive north to the cabin.
They seemed concerned and also as perplexed as we were about Bart and Krista Halderson's whereabouts.
Maybe we could just take a walk around and see you.
So at that point, we took a walk around the exterior of the property. We noticed that the grass and the weeds had not been kept up. In some places it was waist or even chest high.
Did it look like the cabin had been in use?
It certainly didn't look like it had been used any time recently.
They start walking around and everything's still locked up. The grass is really tall.
What first struck me when they were walking, I was like, that's our cabin. That's our family cabin.
Was there a sense of urgency at this point?
With the information we had and things not really making sense, our possibilities were dwindling. I was starting to just wonder what we were going to find next.
And I was worried they were going to be inside. That's what I thought. Something went horribly wrong. Yeah, that was very disturbing.
Sheriff's Office, anybody inside?
There was a concern that Bart and Krista had been kidnapped by this couple that picked them up early that morning, and something had been done to them by them.
Announce your presence, make yourselves known.
I think the police were very concerned that they were going to find 2 dead people there.
But once inside, despite everyone's worst fears, the cabin appears empty to police.
It was dark, so you could tell nobody had been there for a while.
Every single indication shows that this cabin has been empty.
The steepest stairs I've ever seen.
As Detective Groans makes his way through the cabin, he spots a door to the cellar. So right about here, you draw your gun. Why?
Yeah, whenever we go into an unknown space, that's something that we would do just in our own safety.
So for an outsider, this is a dark, creepy space. You got to be ready for anything.
Absolutely.
What's a little crawl space? Holy.
But nothing there either.
Nobody inside and nothing looks like it's disturbed.
So after searching the cabin, investigators make their way down to the lake to check on the shed.
There's all these outbuildings, boathouses and sheds, and all these little tiny buildings that could offer places for people to be. My thought was that Krista was being held in one of those. That's what I thought.
Was there any concern that they might have been held captive in a place like this or been held against their will?
With the padlocks on the outside, it is something that we definitely considered.
They break the padlock on the boathouse, but Bart and Krista are nowhere to be found.
I don't know a ton of details about everything that's gone on. Or
You're filming Mitchell. What are you hearing from him at this point?
Mitchell seemed concerned, and I feel as we went further into the search and we weren't finding any signs of Bart and Krista, his concern became more and more greater as the search of the property continued.
He said his brother texted him that they did make it safely.
Out of like reading back through stuff, they just said we're going up north.
So at this point, for you, this is a mystery, right?
This is definitely a mystery. We don't know who Bart and Krista are believed to be with. There are no signs of Bart and Krista being at this property.
Do you know, did they have any friends, like they might have gone to their cabin in the area?
I have to assume they came up to someone else's cabin, but I don't know.
Really nowhere for us to even suggest looking next at this point. We didn't have anywhere to go. We didn't have a name. We didn't have a vehicle. We didn't have a location. Truly looking for a needle in a 900 square mile haystack.
And then the question is, okay, if they're not at the cabin, where are they?
There were no bodies, there was no anything. So we didn't know what happened, but of course your mind goes to, did the worst happen? Are Bart and Krista still alive?
As investigators and volunteers prepare to scour the county in search of the missing couple, news is spreading about Bart and Krista's disappearance.
We have team coverage on these breaking developments. Bart Halderson and his wife Krista have not been seen since July 1st.
What happens next?
Had the craziest phone call that I had in my law enforcement career. He said that our services were really no longer needed at that point, and then said that he couldn't say much, but I should probably watch the news the next day.
Authorities are still searching for a Windsor couple who have not been seen in days.
My wife is pretty shook up too. I mean, they're a very nice couple, very nice family.
It's been a week since Bart and Krista Halderson were last seen. And while Mitchell Halderson is up at the family cabin searching for his parents, his younger brother Chandler is back home in Windsor, canvassing the neighborhood. He's seen on the neighbor's home security camera footage obtained by investigators. What are you seeing on the home security footage later?
Chandler was going around to neighbors. You would see that they had Ring cameras or some type of security cameras on the outside of their homes. So he was going and asking them, you know, if they had reviewed the video footage.
Remember, one of those neighbors' home security cameras captured this mysterious white van, but it led investigators to a dead end. And yet, Chandler presses on. Chandler is recorded on one Ring camera asking a neighbor about their security system.
And anyone would have like security cameras and stuff like that.
We do.
He's going from neighbor to neighbor asking them, hey, this camera, I see it. Does it point at the road? Does it see our driveway? What does this see?
Thank you.
Take care of things. Bye.
Chandler approaches another neighbor's house and waves to the camera.
My name is Chandler Halderson. I live just down the road.
Oh, yes.
And there's one house where they have more of a professional surveillance system on the home. So he speaks to the woman there.
If you were able to capture the road or my house.
They discuss camera angles and whether their camera has night vision.
He discovers that one is a wide-angled camera. He looks to see what part of the street that would cover.
Yeah, did it capture anything on?
We don't know.
You can see he's really sleuthing, trying to uncover whatever evidence these neighbors may have.
He was asking questions such as, can you see the road? Can you see vehicles drive by? He's out trying to figure out if anything was seen on the outside of his home at that point, you know, from when his parents went missing.
He asks, could there be any footage of my parents being driven away early in the morning on the 2nd? Do you have any footage? It would be maybe helpful to the investigation to see what kind of car picked them up, of course.
One household actually told him that police had already collected the video.
The police actually came and downloaded everything they have. So they were here, I think till like 9 o'clock last night and downloaded all the video she's got.
Chandler walks up to yet another neighbor's house and rings their bell. The neighbor, a retired detective with the Madison Police Department, tells Chandler to meet him in the garage so that they can talk.
Hey, I'll meet you in the garage, okay?
The neighbor says he had a gut feeling that he should record the conversation, which he would later turn over to police.
Sorry about what's going on.
What it is, but I was wondering if your door camera.
We do have it right now.
Does it pick up the road?
Yes, some it does.
Would you have any notifications from Friday morning, early, before 6:15?
We can check. That's not a problem.
Chandler's quest doesn't end there.
Bart and Krista Halderson of Windsor had plans for the 4th.
He heads to WKOW, an ABC news station in Madison, which has been broadcasting Bart and Krista's photo.
At this point, Chandler, he talks to reporters.
But Chandler says he's reticent to go on camera, saying he fears retaliation from whoever may have taken his parents.
He thinks people might be targeting him. He says, is someone out to get my family? I don't want to be on camera, but I want people to hear from me. I want people to know I'm looking for my parents. And so he does an interview with a reporter from our station.
Their son, Chandler Halderson, who asked to be off camera, says whoever his parents were traveling with from this neighborhood were to do the driving. He says he received a text from his mother.
She got back to me. They made it safely. Their plans were going up with their friends and do some minor repairs on our cabin.
Did you literally see them pulling out of the driveway heading out?
No.
With the town now buzzing about the missing couple, Chandler's back at home, and he notices a different kind of activity outside his window.
Chandler sees this uptick in police activity outside his house, so he calls Detective Schunk to find out what's happening. That phone call was recorded.
He was asking if everything was okay. He was asking why there were so many police in his neighborhood.
A little confused. I got 2 squads parked right outside my house. Is everything all right?
And I had to explain to him, you know, we were canvassing the neighborhood.
Yeah, I mean, well, they're probably doing reports.
All right.
Any news on your end at all? Have you gotten any phone calls, text messages?
Gotten any messages other than from concerned parents?
Well, I'll keep you posted if I hear anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Later that night, Chandler comes voluntarily into the Dane County Sheriff's Office, where investigators bring him into this room and seat him in this chair.
So if you just want to have a seat right there, perfect. Thank you so much.
This? Or...
Sure, that's fine.
He's wearing a baseball cap, a sweatshirt, and a furrowed brow.
Just so you know, I'm gonna record stuff, okay?
In that police interview, Chandler talks about the last meal he had with his parents on July 1st, right before they left for the cabin.
That's where they told me while we were eating it, they were gonna go with their friends, and I was like, oh, cool.
And they said they were going to the cabin.
Yeah.
Well,
okay. We're going up north. That's how they referred to it.
Chandler says that by the next morning, his parents had left, never to be heard from again, except for that one reassuring text from his mother.
Nothing else. Yeah, so that's fishy to me.
But investigators are skeptical too, and here's why. They know something Chandler doesn't.
I can't tell you what we know, but we know you're not telling us the truth.
Investigators have asked Chandler Halderson to come in for an interview, and they've also asked for his girlfriend, Kat Melender, to come in as well. Both agree to come in voluntarily, and they're in separate rooms while police act on a new tip that's come to their attention.
A farmer in Cottage Grove, a town about 20 miles away from the Halderson home in Windsor, reports a suspicious sighting earlier in the week.
That's when they find something that really changes this entire investigation.
One of the residents at the farm said that Chandler had come over to the house on July 5th with a vehicle and backed it up against some wooded property and saw him walking from the wooded area and found that to be unusual.
You start searching the farm. You notice something overhead. What was that?
One of the detectives noticed what he believed to be turkey vultures flying around over the wooded portion.
What is a turkey vulture?
Turkey vultures are large birds that feed off typically dead animals. They're scavengers.
What does that trigger in your mind?
He said that from his past professional experience, it kind of indicates that, you know, there's something dead in the area.
And was this in the area or a similar area where Chandler's car had been parked?
Yes. So the detective ended up walking the path that he believed that Chandler was on.
They start to look a little bit closer. They go into the woods and then they see a pile that doesn't look normal.
There, amidst the matted grass, investigators discover what appears to be the torso of an unidentified male body.
It was determined that the individual was shot, dismembered after they were killed.
Hidden inside an oil drum near the body, investigators find a pair of scissors, a saw blade, and bolt cutters. But even with this grisly discovery, investigators will have to wait for the medical examiner to confirm that it is indeed Bart Halderson.
I mean, things at that point really changed for everybody in the case.
So right there, at that moment, this goes from a missing persons case to a homicide.
Yes.
But here's what else has investigators intrigued. That farm has a link to someone very close to the Haldersons.
So the farm in Cottage Grove, it's Chandler's girlfriend's family. They're there over 4th of July weekend. They're celebrating.
While you have Chandler, you have Kat in another room.
Oh, there's a Pooh Bear? All right, you can play with it if you want to.
Kat draws a smiley face on a sequin pillow and clutches a Winnie the Pooh bear. A detective offers Kat a cookie to help put her at ease.
I can't eat well when I'm nervous, so. Okay. Take a nibble of the cookie. Yeah. Baby steps.
There's no chocolate in there.
Yeah. Test the waters, make sure the police aren't trying to poison me.
No, we're not.
So tell me about what's happening here.
We just wanted to hear her side of the story, as she's the one that was closest to Chandler.
Talking to Kat Melander, investigators find out that Chandler visited the farm on the 4th of July with her, but the next day he returns to the farm alone, unannounced.
No one really knew he was coming. He came there alone.
Chandler went to the farm because my mom's fiance lets him walk in the pool because it helps stretch out his legs, make him feel better.
Except he wasn't using the pool. Kat's mom and her fiancé say they saw his car parked on the property, but no sign of Chandler. Until...
When they're in the pool, they look up and they see Chandler now walking. He doesn't have his shirt on. He comes to the pool and says, "Hey, can I get in the pool too?"
He was supposed to be there swimming in the family pool because he needed to swim for some therapy he needed to do. He was not swimming. She saw him coming from the wooded area and found that to be unusual.
Oh, okay. So what struck her is while he was supposed to maybe be there to swim for his therapy, he was not swimming.
Correct.
What I find interesting is you ask her, would anybody want to harm the Haldersons?
And any friends or relatives that they've been having problems with that you can think of? No?
No. I just can't see someone killing them. Like, that's the thing. Like I thought, like, maybe they got into a car accident, like, maybe their car's on the side of the road, like, I even thought, like, maybe that happened and someone took them to the hospital and they're just Jane and John Doe. Like, if someone killed them, it would have to be someone they, like, didn't know.
She seems generally like, are you kidding me? No. Not them. Not them. What do you make of that? What do you make of her response to whether or not somebody would want to harm them?
I think that she's telling an accurate story there. Talking to friends and family members, no one would want to hurt the Haldersons.
Did you get the sense that she thought that Chandler had anything to do with this?
You don't think he had anything to do with his mom and dad being unheard from?
No. 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 All my friends I've talked to, they're like, no, not Chandler, no. Like, that'd be crazy. I just don't see him killing Mr. and Mrs. Halderson. Like, he had SpaceX. Like, why would he jeopardize something he, like, would dream of?
I don't think she thought he had anything to do with it.
Not even suspicions, not even maybe, just nothing to do with it. Couldn't be Chandler.
Now remember, detectives in that interview room haven't told Chandler about any of these discoveries they've made, but that's about to change.
How does him not knowing about that human torso affect the way you interview him, the way you talk to him?
Hey Chandler, how are you doing?
So the way we wanted to interview him initially was to have him lay out the story of what he was telling us from the first night.
So I think it's time we start talking about what happened to your parents, like the truthful version.
So at that point, after we let him tell his entire story, we confront him and say that we know more than what he believes. We told him to come clean, basically not using those words, and we told him to tell us the truth.
Listen to me. This is the only chance you're gonna have to tell us the truth. Okay?
That's when investigators lower the boom on Chandler.
This is your chance to tell us why. Okay? I'm not BSing you. Okay? So can we do that?
Now, it's time for the really hard questions.
There's still another half of this couple that's missing.
If this turns out to be Bart's body, where is Krista Halderson?
So your mind starts thinking, well, what about Krista? You know, where's she? What happened to her?
No one's seen Krista, no one knows where Krista is, but they also haven't found a body. So the question is Krista still alive? If she is, where is she?
And this all leads some to be asking, is Chandler covering up for his mom? Could she have had something to do with Bart's disappearance?
This wasn't a normal disappearance. This wasn't a normal homicide. Every new detail made the case stranger.
The human remains found Thursday are connected to the missing couple, Bart Halderson and Krista Halderson.
You have search teams up there, you have dogs.
So now, where is Krista? Could it be that she was also involved in Bart's murder?
Is she going to be held hostage? Is she being tortured?
Time is of the essence. You have to find Krista.
Yes.
This second time with the search warrant, we have crime scene investigators that are in the home going through everything.
We're in the basement. What did you find down here?
Down here, we found traces of blood on both sides of the basement.
I don't really have words for it, to be honest. I just don't know how somebody could do that to somebody else.
Cameras all around. We know that Bart went into that home and never came out.
Everything seems so evil. Chilling. Unbelievable.
It's July 8th in Madison, Wisconsin. It's been a week since Bart and Krista Halderson were last seen. It can really feel warm there in the summer, even when you're not under the microscopic lens of the police.
What's going on?
Bart and Krista Halderson's youngest son, Chandler, is being interviewed by police, but he hasn't yet been charged in their disappearance. Now, police are playing coy with him. They haven't yet revealed the discovery of a body at that farm in Cottage Grove.
Listen, I can't tell you what we know, but we know you're not telling us the truth. We know your parents are no longer with us. Okay, and we know the reason why.
So far, nothing Chandler's told police has panned out. He told them and everyone else his parents went up to the cabin for the 4th of July weekend with some other couple, and nobody knows who they are. A search of the cabin clearly showed no one recently had been there.
You need to tell the truth about what happened and just tell us why it happened. Okay? If something happened, if you were defending yourself, or if you just got fed up with stuff, you need to tell us the truth, okay? This is your chance to tell us why, okay? I'm not BSing you, okay? So can we do that?
Okay, they're okay. Lawyer. I'm sorry. Say it again, Chandler. Lawyer. Okay.
Chandler asking for a lawyer effectively ends the interview on the spot.
Tell me what you're taking from all this as trained investigators who have to question people like this.
The first thing that really stood out in my mind is when Detective Hendrickson told Chandler that his parents are no longer with us.
We know your parents are no longer with us, okay, and we know the reason why.
There wasn't the huge shock reaction that I believe most people would display.
At this point, Chandler's not charged with murder, but he is charged with something else. Tell me about that.
Yeah, Chandler was charged with providing false information in a missing persons case. He was telling us that his parents had gone to a cabin up north, when in all reality we found that his parents didn't go anywhere at all.
Their son Chandler was arrested Thursday for allegedly providing false information to investigators.
Four days after Chandler's arrest, the autopsy results on the remains found at the farm come back.
The Dane County Medical Examiner confirms the human remains found last Thursday are those of 50-year-old Bart Halderson. A preliminary autopsy indicates he was murdered.
It was determined that the individual was shot, dismembered after they were killed, and was positively identified as Bart Halderson.
Okay, so what did you think when you got those results back?
It confirmed our suspicions of who it was, but now we had more evidence that we could charge Chandler with the homicide.
When I found out that Bart was dead, it was anger. It was, wow, this is real life. And there was just this big void of Bart being gone and no idea where Krista was.
A big question remained in our mind: where's Krista Halderson?
So now, where is Krista? Could it be that she was also involved in Bart's murder?
There were a few people that I communicated with, well, maybe Krista's involved.
One theory was this an incident where Krista killed her husband, but her son lives with them and he loves his mom. Was he covering for her? Was she responsible? There were all these questions. Again, it was one of those things. One layer gets pulled back, you get one answer, but for each answer you get, there are 17 more questions.
You're asking the question of where's Krista. There was some talk in the community about perhaps maybe in some way, once the murder charges are out there, Krista had some sort of involvement in what happened with Bart. Did you pursue that theory?
No, I mean, we did not believe that she would have anything to do with it. Of course, as time is going on and days are passing, we're learning more information about their whereabouts. We had surveillance video we were reviewing, trying to get a timeline from July 1st to July 7th. And so what we were learning did not suggest that Krista had any involvement at all.
Because I knew Krista and I knew her personality, I knew Krista was not involved.
It seemed like something you read about not happening to our family. Somebody else, you read about that, something happening somewhere else to somebody else, and that was happening to our family.
What are you thinking there?
We had this tiny little hope that she was alive somewhere.
Authorities are holding out hope, too, and ask the public for help to somehow find Krista alive.
We are optimistic in regards to her whereabouts and where she is at, and we will let the evidence of this investigation tell us otherwise.
Perhaps the most troubling question authorities are left with: why? This was a loving family. Why would Chandler, or anyone else for that matter, want either of the Haldersons dead? It didn't seem to add up.
I was starting to have that like sinking feeling in my stomach, like something went wrong in the family. I don't know what.
Facing at least one murder charge, Chandler is lawyered up and not talking. But someone very close to him is.
She had her cell phone back and had found something in her cell phone that she wanted to provide to us.
It's from Snapchat. I don't know if you use the app.
And you know how Snapchat messages disappear? One of Chandler's didn't.
The man accused of killing his father
is now being held in jail on a tentative charge of first-degree intentional homicide, hiding a corpse, and mutilating a corpse.
Sheriff's personnel tonight remain at the Halderson home in Windsor.
investigators are leaving no stone unturned in the search for Krista Halderson. But with Chandler now in custody, hope is fading fast. Every minute that passes becomes more crucial.
And there was just this big void of Bart being gone and no idea where Krista was. I'm hoping she's alive.
A big question remained in our mind: where's Krista Halderson?
But things are about to take a dramatic turn. When police first spoke to Chandler's girlfriend, Kat Melander, she voluntarily gave them her cell phone. And on it, they found a vital clue to their investigation. By the time Kat comes in for a second interview, both she and police realize how important it can be.
So is there anything you want to tell us right away?
She comes to the realization that she didn't tell us everything and that she had something on her phone that could be helpful and valuable to finding the Haldersons. And it wasn't something that she intentionally withheld from us.
Tell me what you find on Kat's cell phone.
During the review of Kat's cell phone, we found numerous clues and treasures that I don't even know she knew she had. We found all of their message history, and we also found a screenshot of a Snapchat location that she had had.
That screenshot saved on Kat's phone shows Chandler's avatar labeled hubby on the banks of the Wisconsin River. Snapchat is a social media app specifically designed to share photos that disappear. Once you open a message, you only have a few seconds to take a screenshot before that picture is gone for good. In 2017, Snapchat added the feature Snap Map, which also lets you share your location with friends in real time.
And why did she have him on Snapchat in the first place?
They had a time in their relationship where he had cheated on her. She had his location services on for Snapchat. It was an agreement they had. She wanted to be able to know his whereabouts.
With her lawyer present and her cell phone in hand, she voluntarily talks police through what she now realizes could be critical evidence, a technological smoking gun.
It's from Snapchat. I don't know if you use the app, but that's him by the Wisconsin River off of Gulf Road.
Okay.
And that's
got a timestamp
8:58
on it.
Okay.
in the morning.
Sure.
And then my phone always tells me what day it is, so it's July 3rd, 8:58 a.m.
The continued presence of sheriff's personnel at the Halderson home has become almost background for this neighborhood here. Krista Halderson remains missing.
With the case in the news, Kat and her lawyer decide this information could be useful to police and to Kat.
Right before Kat goes back for that second interview, we're getting updates from law enforcement, and one of those comes in the form of a press briefing. And a reporter asks, is the girlfriend a suspect? And the sheriff didn't answer. And that freaked Kat out.
Is there any way you guys can change the narrative to indicate that the girlfriend's not a suspect and that she's not somehow somebody you suspect?
How early did you clear
Kat Melander?
Pretty early on, once we started looking at her phone and finding out other information about Chandler. But there were, different investigators in the command post that had different theories. Was she in the circle? Was she out of the circle? And we just had to do our job and let the evidence lead us to the conclusion, and she was not involved whatsoever.
Law enforcement was very clear. They don't think Kat had anything to do with these murders.
Why do you think she was so eager to offer all this information?
I think because she wanted to clear herself.
Why did she do a screenshot of a snap map on Chandler at that time?
She had left Chandler's house that morning on Saturday, and he was supposed to go to do some chores. And then she later looked at his location and saw that he was up by the Wisconsin River.
She goes, this is where he was, middle of the morning on Saturday, after his parents went missing. He told me he was gonna be doing chores at his house, and then he wasn't answering, and I checked Snapchat, and he's in this random area right along a river.
She didn't know why he was there, so she started questioning him about his location and what he was doing there.
I was like, hey, where you at? Where you at? Like, you're not responding to me on Snapchat.
Mm-hmm.
And we ended up calling, and he just said he was in a dead zone.
Kat knows this area. It's a swimming hole. She's been with Chandler. They'd been that summer.
Have you been to that spot? Do you know?
I don't know if it's that specific spot, but we used to swim on the Wisconsin River.
Okay.
And Like, it's one of the spots we would just go to.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, I've only been there, like, maybe 3 times.
Okay.
But he's gone swimming there a couple times.
Okay.
In fact, other friends told police that was Chandler's favorite swimming spot. A year earlier, an ex-girlfriend receives this picture, which she gave to police, of Chandler in that area, posing with a tree and a knife in his hand.
This case really highlighted how social media tracks everything. And that became so crucial in this case.
But as enlightening as this Snapchat evidence is, a treasure trove of text messages between Kat and Chandler is even more intriguing. Investigators zero in on a couple of erratic texts from Chandler the morning Bart and Krista vanish, which sound ominous. I don't know. Stuff hasn't really been going well for me lately, so I'm trying to plan for the next thing to expletive me over. Yeah, I just had a great future planned, and it's falling apart. Kat replies, "No, it's not. You're going to be okay." With suspicions of Chandler now high as ever, investigators obtain a search warrant and go back to the Halderson home.
We go back to the nexus of this case, the Haldersons' home in Windsor. Investigators start walking through, and they find a lot in that house, a lot that tells us what happened.
The Dane County Sheriff's Office now considers this to be a homicide investigation. That's because they found the remains of Bart Halderson late last week in a rural area of the town of Cottage Grove.
On July 11th, a judge authorizes a search warrant of the Halderson home in Windsor.
It's where they were living with Chandler. It was the last place we know Bart and Krista were. So investigators start walking through.
Investigators are familiar with the home as they'd been there just a few days earlier.
To step back a little bit, this isn't the first time you've been to the house, right?
Right.
Okay, so what did you do the first time when you were in the house? What did you find?
When we were in the house the first night on July 7th, Chandler did walk us around after we interviewed him and showed us what he wanted us to see around the home.
As the investigators entered the den on that initial search, they noticed the fireplace looked not quite right.
It has a glass front, 4 glass panels, or there's supposed to be 4, but one of them is missing.
There was a glass panel that was broken out in the fireplace, and he had disclosed that to deputies and to us the first night we were in there, and explained it that he was playing ball with one of the dogs, and the dogs broke the glass fireplace. And so that was his story.
Dog broke a panel, there was broken glass everywhere, I was cleaning it up, I cut my foot, I got some blood everywhere.
Chandler's saying there's broken glass and there was a lot of blood, but it's not related at all to this case. It was my dog's.
And when they look at his foot, they realize it's not a huge cut. He didn't slash the bottom of his foot open. It looks kind of more like a pinprick. Not necessarily something that seems like it would come from glass being all over the floor.
You found his blood, but did that line up with what he said about cutting his foot? And that's why that blood was there? Or was it that you might have gotten a sense that it was something different?
It could mean that Chandler had cut his toe near the fireplace, but it wouldn't explain why Bart and Krista's blood would be in the same area.
And on that second search of the home, luminol testing would reveal traces of blood belonging to Bart and Krista Halderson in the living room, leading investigators to believe they've both been murdered. But as they continue their search, they find more ominous evidence.
During the search warrant, we did find 2 cell phones and Bart and Krista's driver's licenses wrapped in tinfoil in a shoe in the garage.
What does that tell you?
That told us that Bart and Krista didn't go anywhere.
And how does that poke holes in what Chandler told you?
Chandler had told us that he was messaging back and forth with his mother, Krista, on Sunday, and that Krista was messaging him that they made it, and that they were going to be watching the fireworks and the parade. We found that that was not true.
How could she be texting him if her phone is sitting right there wrapped up in aluminum foil?
Yes.
The phone proved that Bart and Krista never left their house. They never went to the cabin. The only other person who was home was Chandler.
Do you have any sense of why they were wrapped in aluminum foil?
I think Chandler thought that would protect them from cell phone towers.
Detectives also did an extensive search of Chandler Halderson's bedroom, resembling something like an armory.
So in Chandler's bedroom, we actually located a case of approximately 480 SKS rifle rounds.
So we're in the basement now. What did you find down here?
Down here, we found traces of blood on both sides of the basement. We had the shell casing that we had located over here. There was some other blood evidence on different items down here.
Okay, so you have the blood, the shell casing. Did this tell you, along with the other evidence, where Bart and Krista were killed?
It did, yeah. They were killed down here.
So you had the shell casings, you had the ammo, but you didn't have the murder weapon. Where was that recovered?
The rifle was recovered at the farm in Cottage Grove.
The weapon was found hidden in a barn on the farm's property. No one had any idea it was there.
Chandler really liked first-person shooter video games. And in those games, you can choose what weapon you use. And he liked to try a variety, you know, he wasn't a single gun type person, but he liked the SKS rifle in those video games. He used it a lot.
Now you have a link between the shell casings and the ammo and this gun at the farm.
Yes. The picture that we were seeing at that point is that Chandler had murdered Bart and Krista Halderson in the home and went through extensive work to dispose of their bodies.
What was the reason for it? All in all, they were a loving family, from what we were told by everybody.
Those questions, prosecutors promise, are about to be answered.
The lawyers will now make opening statements.
Got a GPS on the phone. Go ahead and give it.
It's from Snapchat. I don't know if you use that, but that's.
You've been to that spot?
I don't know if it's that specific spot, but we used to swim on the Wisconsin River.
Investigators already have the snap map from Chandler Halderson's girlfriend, placing him at the Wisconsin River. But it's a second tip of a random sighting that piques their interest.
We had sent a detective up to the Wisconsin River area. One of the neighbors happened to come over to that detective and tell him that she had seen a strange or suspect male in that area the week prior. We arranged for a larger team of detectives to go up to the area, and we wanted to do a land search of that property.
They go where Chandler was. It's a dense, vegetative area, wild state land, in between, you know, a road and the river.
You have search teams up there, you have dogs. What's going through your mind?
We were hopeful that we would find something.
Time is of the essence. You have to find Krista.
Yes.
As they're walking around, some of the people searching start to smell something. And then they walk a little bit further and they see something.
What did you find at that location?
In close proximity to each other, there were dismembered body parts.
The Dane County Medical Examiner's Office, working in partnership with the Wisconsin State Crime Lab, has confirmed the DNA obtained from part of the dismembered human remains as matching 53-year-old Krista Halderson.
I was just angered. I was shocked, felt sick to my stomach. I mean, these are honest to goodness friends.
It's just so graphic. I don't really have words for it, to be honest.
I see you thinking about it, and it's kind of, it almost brings about some emotion in you.
For sure. I just don't know how somebody could do that to somebody else, especially if it's their parents, right? We go to homicides all the time. We go to murders all the time. And a lot of that stuff is in the heat of the moment. This is just a whole nother level of emotion.
The location where Krista's remains are found seems familiar to at least one detective. And then it clicks when he sees a unique tree trunk The same one in that photograph given to police by Chandler's ex, showing Chandler near his favorite swimming spot.
Chandler Halderson is now officially charged in the death of both of his parents.
Chandler Halderson pleads not guilty to all the charges. And just a couple of months later, prosecutors set out to answer those questions as Chandler goes to trial.
Thanks. You can be seated, everybody. Thank you. Good morning.
The city of Madison, Wisconsin rings in the new year with confetti, cocktails, and a double murder trial. Prosecutors set out to prove Chandler killed Bart and Krista Halderson. And a big part of their strategy is to prove their theory as to why.
Juries always want to understand why someone would commit a murder. Why would you kill your parents? And if prosecutors don't explain it, it's kind of a hole in their case.
The lawyers will now make opening statements. Attorney Brown.
Thank you. Chandler Halderson murdered his parents, dismembered their bodies, and hid them around southern Wisconsin. How does this happen? How does this kid, with everything in the world going for him, promising new jobs, school, a girlfriend that loves him, willing to move across the country for him, how does this happen?
The jury hears about Chandler Halderson's IT degree, studies in renewable energy, a dream job at SpaceX, and a new life with his girlfriend in Florida.
He was about to embark on a career that people in the IT field could only dream of.
But they also hear about what prosecutors say was a concoction, a total fabrication of the events leading up to Bart and Krista's disappearance.
He gives this bizarre story of his parents leaving in an unknown car, going to a cabin with an unknown couple, with an unknown amount of money, for really an unknown reason.
Attorney Dorrell.
Thank you. The defense should be demonstrating why they say there's reasonable doubt in this case, why maybe he didn't do it.
Chandler Halderson did not murder his parents. He is not guilty of those crimes. And he lived peacefully in his parents' home. He was just a normal kid.
The defense comes out at the beginning, opening statements, and admits their client is a liar. Chandler Halderson is a liar. But they say that doesn't make him a killer.
When someone is on trial for the most serious crime possible, and every little thing they do, every little lie they might have told, is blown up and thrown against someone. That's when proof beyond a reasonable doubt matters.
And that's actually an excellent strategy because you want to let the jury know from the beginning all of the bad facts about your case.
And as prosecutors begin to call witnesses, there's one who has a haunting story.
My name is Omar Job, O-M-A-R-J-O-B-E.
About a phone call he receives just before the murders. A conversation not only revealing, but stunning.
The trial continues for Chandler Halderson, who's accused of killing and dismembering his parents, Bart and Krista Halderson.
Chandler Halderson is on trial for the murder of both his parents. And from jump, prosecutors promised the jury they'd hear the reason why. And in their opening statements, prosecutors told the jury it all started because that promising future Chandler supposedly had was a mirage. Called to the witness stand, Omar Job, a Madison College enrollment officer, who says his phone rang on June 29th. It's a call, he says, he won't soon forget.
Was that call recorded?
Yes.
Okay, what's your first name? Chandler, C-H-A-N-D-L-E-R. Last name is H-A-L. D as in David, E-R-S-O-N.
It's a normal phone call that we receive every day. This person was trying to request a transcript.
Trying to get an appointment scheduled to meet with somebody to mainly just get a copy of the transcript.
On this call, Job is hearing a complaint from Chandler that for months now, he hasn't received his college transcripts.
Okay, so it looks like you owe a balance. So that's why you can't request it. Hello?
The jury listens as Omar Job then tries to confirm what classes Chandler is taking.
You were taking IT classes, right? I don't see that you were in a program. But prior to the IT, there was a solar program too. Yeah, but I don't see that.
The IT degree is in there, right?
No, those are just classes.
I found that Chandler was taking classes at Madison College for a couple of semesters, and then he stopped.
But here's the thing about that phone call. It's not at all what it appears to be.
At that time, like, it didn't register in my mind.
On the other line, it is a Halderson, but it's not Chandler. It's actually Bart Halderson pretending to be his son.
Prosecutors play it during trial. The jury got to hear what Bart sounded like as he figured out his son was lying to him.
Bart has been trying unsuccessfully for months to get the transcripts from Chandler, and he was beginning to get suspicious.
According to prosecutors, the phone call was a ruse by Bart to see if his son was actually enrolled in college, and it turns out he wasn't. He failed out.
Prosecutors also allege that Chandler had set up fake email accounts in an attempt to deceive his father about why his transcripts weren't coming.
Chandler was looping Bart in on some of these emails with Madison College, just trying to show Bart that this is why I'm not getting my transcripts.
But the problem is, according to detectives, they're fake too.
He asked me 2 people's names that work in advising because they were trying to set up something with them.
Do you have an Alyssa Brandt that works in that area or anywhere in the campus?
You said the first name is Alyssa?
Alyssa? Yeah, Alyssa.
No, there's no Alyssa.
Does Daniel Spice still work there?
No.
Chandler had made up fake emails with fake school employees to email back and forth about the transcript issue.
Can I ask you, what is the end part of every employee's email who works for Madison College?
MadisonCollege.edu.
No one uses a Gmail account as their official Madison College email?
No.
But college wasn't the only alleged deception Chandler carried out. Prosecutors call in witnesses who reveal things like that internship at American Family Insurance.
I found no record of that person working for American Family.
The job at Elon Musk's SpaceX?
Were there ever any emails regarding a job application or employments with SpaceX?
No.
Prosecutors argue that essentially everything he supposedly had going for him, none of it was real.
The defense did not cross-examine these witnesses.
Cross-examination?
No, thank you.
The defense always has to balance between aggressively cross-examining witnesses and alienating the jury.
So the insurance company internship, the SpaceX opportunity, the going to school, all a lie.
All lies. Yeah.
So you're hearing this at the trial. What did this make you think of him?
That he's not anybody who I thought he was.
It's an explosive claim in court. Authorities say Chandler has been perpetrating this catfish scheme for at least a year. The call to Madison College would turn out to be fateful, and the last recorded words of Bart Halderson.
Okay, that should do it then. Okay, thank you for your help.
Bart then sends Chandler a text. I spoke with Omar Job.
Bart sets up a meeting for July 1st with a school administrator and plans to bring Chandler along. Around 2 p.m. that day, Bart sends this text to his son. I'm ready whenever you are.
It's the last text message from Bart, and the last day Bart and Krista are seen alive.
When Bart figured it out, Chandler realized he could lose everything. Prosecution, the story they painted was that Chandler gave himself no other option.
Not long after that, Chandler asked his mom to stop at the gas station and pick up soda.
Chandler's text says, Dad's phone died. Text or call me, and get soda on your way home. I have an extra hour of work. Krista replies, Kay, I can, smiley face. That would be the last text from Krista Halderson.
As if the alleged motive wasn't already shocking enough, there was Chandler's whole history of a debilitating head injury, which prosecutors say was also untrue.
Late June, early July 2021, Chandler had just fallen down the stairs. He had this injury that he said could cause lifelong side effects. By all accounts, the fall stopped Chandler's life.
Prosecutors entered this photo into evidence at trial to support their theory that Chandler's fall is part of an alleged web of lies. Prosecution calls the ER doctor to dispel that myth.
I'm an emergency physician at the University of Wisconsin Hospital and Clinics.
What in this case did you diagnose Mr. Halderson with?
I believe he was diagnosed as having a mild concussion. The patient had some residual neck pain, so he was given a collar to go home with for support.
The defense pushes back on the prosecution's claims, cross-examining the ER doctor about Chandler's injury.
You did diagnose Chandler Halderson with a mild concussion, right?
That's correct.
You didn't give him a set number of days to wear the collar, is that right?
I don't believe so, no.
In that picture, on Father's Day of 2021, standing next to Bart, he's got the brace on, because he did go to the ER.
That Father's Day brunch photo, which is shown to the jury by prosecutors, is just weeks before the murder.
But then there's surveillance video of Chandler the night of July 1st at a nearby Quick Trip carrying 2 bags of ice, 10-pound bags of ice.
But prosecutors also point out, conspicuously missing on this Quick Trip surveillance video, Chandler's neck brace. And they claim it's the same story when he visits a local store.
He's at Fleet Farm. Again, no neck brace. Just normal 23-year-old dude walking into Fleet Farm to buy a tarp.
And that tarp, prosecutors say, is part of what Chandler used to dispose of his parents' remains.
The prosecution calls one last star witness, Chandler's ex-girlfriend, Kat Melander, who testifies about the impact of sharing the snap map discovery on her phone.
Why was it important to you to cooperate at that time?
Because I just believed his parents were missing. And I just want them to be found.
And later, she recalls something else she noticed during the initial search for Bart and Krista.
When you first go in the house that day, did you notice anything off?
There was a smoky smell.
That smoky smell, a neighbor's security camera, and a flickering light are about to reveal another dark secret inside the home. It turns out, prosecutors say, Chandler has one more big thing to hide. It's day 7 in Chandler Halderson's trial, as he stands accused of the murder of his own parents in what prosecutors say was a desperate attempt to conceal a secret web of lies. But what the jury hears next is some of the most disturbing evidence yet.
We had a grand total of 230 bones, fragmented bones that were found, again, inside the fireplace, on the grate, and also on the ash disposal area.
So we found video footage from one of the neighbors that actually watched the backside of the house. And through a forensic analysis of that video, our examiner was able to determine that the glow in certain windows of this home was indeed the fireplace.
What was the most disturbing moment of the trial for you?
They showed the fireplace burning all night when he was trying to cremate the skulls of his parents. I almost got sick watching that.
The defense didn't challenge Dr. Figueroa Soto's testimony. After 8 days of testimony, it's the defense's turn. Everyone's wondering what Chandler's case is going to be. But in a surprise move, the defense rests without calling a single witness.
Attorney Dorrell, will other witnesses being called this morning?
No, Your Honor.
Watching this trial, it was so one-sided. There were 8 full days of testimony from the prosecution. They had so much evidence. The defense was the opposite.
At this time, I will invite the state to present its closing argument.
In closing arguments, The prosecution urges the jury to look at this image of Bart and Krista, likening the pieces of evidence to that of a jigsaw.
Solving a case and thinking about whether or not a person is guilty or not guilty is like putting together a puzzle. And it's your job as the jury to put that puzzle together. It's not a whodunit. We know that Bart and Krista went into that home and never came out, at least as whole people.
Attorney Vera, would you please present the defense closing?
Thank you.
While the defense says all the state was able to prove was that Chandler is a liar, not a killer.
Kids lie to their parents all the time. Motive does not mean intent. Do you know if it was an awful accident? Do you know if it was intentional? Do you know if there was someone else involved? You don't. And that's a problem.
Just after 3 p.m., news breaks that the jury has reached a verdict.
Breaking news. In just about a little over 2 hours, the jury has reached a verdict in the Chandler Halderson case.
When we found out that the verdict was in, it had been 2 hours. No one knew what was going on. People were waiting on pins and needles to figure out what that was.
We, the jury, find the defendant Chandler M. Halderson guilty of first-degree intentional homicide.
Chandler Halderson is found guilty on all 8 charges. So what was your reaction to the verdict?
I would like to say it was relief. It really wasn't, because it's still sad, it's still grotesque, everything about it. There was some closure for the family. To me, it was just and fair.
In March of 2022, at sentencing, Chandler breaks his silence for the first time.
Your Honor, I want to take this opportunity to state my intent to appeal my convictions. If there are any lawyers listening and willing to take on my appeal, take a moment to please reach out to me. It's not that I do not have feelings. It's that I was warned to not show them due to the scrutiny of this case. Thank you.
No remorse, no empathy, no love to his parents.
Chandler is sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, still leaving his family and friends with far more questions than answers as to why he murdered his mother and father.
The Haldersons and I were friends for about 25, 26 years. And there was never a cross word. They were just good people. If there were more Bart and Kristas in the world, it would be a better world.
If Chandler would have just asked for help, what do you think Barb and Krista would have done?
They would have given everything and anything to help him. They would have been there. That's the kind of people they were.
If you could talk to Krista one more time, if you just had one more moment to say something to her, what would it be?
I would say you were a great mom.
My name is Megan Sachs. I'm a criminologist at Fairleigh Dickinson University. In simplest terms, criminology is the scientific study of what causes crime and how the criminal justice system responds to crime.
I've written about 25 true crime books over the years, and I think Melanie Maguire's is perhaps one of the most interesting ones and baffling.
This is Melanie Maguire, arrested today minutes after dropping off her children at daycare.
Melanie Maguire, a New Jersey nurse, was accused of killing her husband, cutting up his body and throwing it into the Chesapeake Bay.
In 2007, what was being called the suitcase murder trial was generating an enormous amount of media attention, not just in New Jersey, but all across the country.
3 bizarre discoveries, 3 separate suitcases, all containing human remains.
A woman who was on trial for her very life. She says the real truth behind the crime has never been revealed.
With no history of violence and no apparent motive for murder,
Could she really have done it?
She was this beautiful young nurse, and they were this seemingly normal middle-class couple, and the murder happened in such a grisly way.
The idea that this beautiful nurse could have actually killed her husband and then cut him up is just incredible.
Of course, there were the salacious aspects.
Mrs. McGuire is a registered nurse, and prosecutors say she had an affair with a doctor.
She didn't fit the profile, I guess, of a murderer.
Over the years, students and colleagues of ours have come to me and said, you know, Melanie McGuire proclaims her innocence and would love to tell her story.
I started thinking, oh, maybe there is a little more to this case than what you just see on the surface. And then the idea of a podcast came up, and I was all in.
On direct appeal, we examined the murder conviction of Melanie McGuire following a highly publicized trial. Looking at the evidence that was presented and the evidence that may have seemed insignificant at the time, we form our own conclusion about Melanie's guilt.
We here at ABC have our own history with the Melanie McGuire case. Back in 2007, ABC's Cynthia McFadden had the first on-camera interview with the mother of two on trial for murdering her husband.
Who is the Melanie McGuire you hope the jury knows?
The one who tried to take care of everybody, who didn't make the smartest decisions, but admitted to those mistakes to the people she trusted most, but did not admit what she's accused of.
I have been incarcerated for 12 and a half, going on 13 years now.
Do you still insist that you're innocent?
Absolutely.
You're sitting here a wrongfully convicted person.
Correct. Absolutely.
And what have those years been like?
I tell people it's not as bad as you think in some ways, and it's so much worse than I could ever articulate in others. After all these years, I still feel hurt. I still feel bothered. I still feel like, how could somebody think that I did that?
This whole saga begins on May 5th, 2004, with an odd discovery in Virginia Beach.
Early morning, a couple of fishermen and their kids are out on a boat by the Chesapeake Bay.
Me and my friend Don Connors was going to go out fishing, and we both had days off, and D, or Don, we called him D, he said keep his kids out of school, we're going to take them fishing. So everybody was excited. We went right out through this bridge here, and if you keep on going, you'll run right into the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel.
The Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel is about 17.5 miles long. It really is quite astonishing. It connects the eastern shore of Virginia to Virginia Beach.
Has two tunnels for two shipping channels, and once you get on the other side, you go north, you're up into Maryland, Delaware, New Jersey. So we went out there and anchored off of Fisherman's Island, and we were just doing some fishing.
And suddenly, one notices that a suitcase has floated by.
We wheeled the boat around, pulled up alongside it. I immediately thought it probably blew off of a car, you know, off the luggage rack or something. D and his son had reached over and were trying to pull it up in. It had some weight to it, so I stopped the boat, reached in and helped him pull that thing up in there. And laid it in the floor of the boat.
They found a dark green Kenneth Cole suitcase in pretty good condition that was apparently part of a luggage set of 3.
They put it on board, and the little boy with them is very, very excited. He thinks it's buried treasure, so he wants to open it.
The contents were covered with a thick trash bag, like a hefty bag or something. And I said, uh-oh. I was a little bit nervous then when I saw the black bags in there. So it's a turn to say something to D, and while I was talking to D, the young boy reached down and ripped open the plastic trash bags. There was no doubt of what it was. It was a set of human legs.
There's a pair of male legs from the knee down, look very fresh, and they recoil in horror.
I looked down there and said, oh my gracious. So I closed the bag back up, and I dialed 911.
I was out on patrol in the Chesapeake Bay when I received a radio call. I made arrangements with him to meet me, and he transferred a suitcase over to my boat.
I handed him the luggage, and he seemed surprised. He goes, "What do you want me to do with that?" And I said, "Open it up."
I was pretty shocked. I'd never seen a suitcase with body parts in it before. There really wasn't any smell. They actually looked kind of fresh.
The first suitcase being found was big news. It's not, a common find by any means, especially in this area.
This is an alarming story. Everybody wanted to know who the man in the suitcase was.
We kind of figured there had to be other suitcases with other parts in it.
After the initial shock of them finding the suitcase, everyone was just waiting for what was going to wash up next. The Chesapeake Bay area, there's a lot of boaters, there are bird watchers, there's Fisherman's Island, a nature sanctuary. This is really kind of a tourist, a fun area.
People are going there to relax or going with their families. The last thing they would expect is to find a suitcase with a human body in it.
It was the start of the summer tourist season, which is huge for Virginia Beach, and getting that kind of negative publicity of bodies washing up in suitcases was something they did not need. 6 days later, the student was on Fisherman's Island in the middle of the Chesapeake Bay, which is a nature preserve. And she saw a dark green Kenneth Cole suitcase.
She was curious what could be contained inside, and she actually pulled a little bit of the black trash bag out of the suitcase. There was such a strong odor of decomposition that she immediately stopped and notified the refuge workers.
The police, they'd been expecting this because after the first Kenneth Cole bag with the legs, they suspected there was going to be more.
It was transported to the medical examiner's office in Norfolk, and that's where we actually viewed what the contents inside.
Inside this suitcase would be the torso and the head of a male. The torso is still attached with the arms and the head.
The head was wrapped in what looked like a medical blanket.
The face was somewhat identifiable, but it had been submerged for a while, so extremely bloated.
The medical examiner is able to determine that the victim's been shot multiple times. There are a couple of gunshot wounds in the torso area and one through the head.
There were 2 bullets that were recovered from the body, wad cutter bullets. And wad cutter bullets are not typically used by the average person, but they are used for target practice.
And it became a very big local story.
A student discovered a suitcase near Fisherman Island. Inside, a human head.
It's getting a lot of coverage.
It's the second suitcase in a week found near the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel, and the second one containing body parts.
And everybody was waiting for the rest of the body to turn up.
Well, the third suitcase was found on May 16, 2004 in the water by a fisherman.
He saw the suitcase floating in the water. This third suitcase that had been in the water the longest did have some growth on it from floating in the water for so long.
This suitcase contained the pelvis, so from the waist down to above the knees. Authorities realize they have to figure out who it is.
Anytime you find an unknown body, the first thing you're going to do is look into missing person cases to see if the profile matches anyone who's currently missing.
Because of the naval bases in the area, they're checking military records. They're checking everything they can possibly think of to figure out who this person is.
One of the policemen working on it came up with the idea of getting a sketch artist in.
I immediately took photographs to our sketch artist, and she was able to do a sketch for us, and we eventually released it to the media.
We're hoping maybe this will give us an edge and maybe identify him sooner.
Right now, he's just
John Doe.
May the 21st, Sue sees the picture on TV of a sketch that they had done to find out who this person was.
Sue had been getting out of the shower one morning. The television was on, and as she was getting out, toweling off, she looks at the TV.
This is a sketch of the body that washed ashore near the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel this month.
He belongs to somebody. I mean, he's got loved ones.
She thinks, oh my God, that looks like Bill.
Sue was pretty sure that it was Bill McGuire. This is John and Sue Rice, Bill McGuire's good friends. Bill and John had been friends since their early Navy days. Bill was friends with Sue as well. Melanie knew Sue. The couples had vacationed together.
Sue immediately calls her husband to take a look, and he's not so sure it's Bill, but Sue's convinced it is in fact, and says, please call Crime Stoppers.
He was very good friends with Mr. McGuire. He told me that Mr. McGuire lived in Woodbridge, New Jersey. He was married to Melanie McGuire, and they had 2 small children.
He wanted to know more about the dynamics of Bill, why I thought it could be Bill. And the only way that I thought it could be Bill is that, yeah, he's missing too.
John Rice had spoke to Cindy Lagash, who is William McGuire's sister.
I got a call from Cindy. She said, John, is Billy there? And I said, no, he's not. What's going on? And she said, well, Bill and Melanie got in an argument and he left and he hadn't been heard from.
He said he was leaving and he wasn't coming back. My husband was full of bluster when it came to stuff like that. He would say things like that all the time. I didn't actually believe it was the last time I was ever going to see my husband.
William McGuire had, in fact, vanished. Mr. Rice and his wife, Mrs. Rice, eventually agreed to come down to the police department in Virginia Beach and view some photos.
Bill had a little red mark right here, and that's what I kept zoning in on when I saw the picture. That's exactly what I zoned in on. I mean, I've known Bill for 22 years. I kept seeing that, and I was pretty certain that it was Bill.
Once we had a name and approximate age, we ran him through our computer system.
He ran a check on Bill McGuire, and he found that McGuire had been arrested in Virginia for a reckless driving charge in the 1980s.
His fingerprints were on file already, which made it a lot easier, and they're very quickly able to confirm that the fingerprints matched.
The man in the suitcases was identified as 39-year-old William McGuire of Woodbridge, New Jersey.
So according to Melanie, she just thinks her husband is missing, but she is about to get the news that will change her life forever.
And he said, I'm sorry to tell you, ma'am, that William is deceased. And I just burst into tears.
Now they've solved the mystery of who the man in the suitcase is. The big question is, how the hell did he get there? The Melanie McGuire story is centered around New Jersey. They lived in the working class part of New Jersey where The Sopranos took place, which was perhaps the hottest show at the time.
Melanie is a Jersey girl, born and raised there. Her parents are Linda and Michael Caporero.
She's a great, great daughter, mother, friend, full of life, fun-loving, a good girl, never in trouble, never in trouble.
Always trying to help people.
She's working in the restaurants in Jersey. She's a waitress, and she met Bill McGuire. He was also a server.
Bill was known as the rude waiter because he would speed people up in a jocular way, but they loved it, and he would ask for the rude waiter.
What was he like?
Funny, clever. He had a big heart when he wanted to. He wanted all the right things.
He was very, very loyal. He was a tremendous friend. When I first met Bill, I didn't know what to make of him because he was really a practical joker and whatnot, and I thought, well, this guy could probably get on somebody's nerves with all this. But he was so funny, he just kind of overcame whatever resistance you might have to him.
Melanie was a fertility nurse when I met her. She's just so caring, so nurturing.
She was working with women who were going through really tough times trying to get pregnant. She was very compassionate, and her patients really loved her.
What made you a good nurse?
Type A personality. The way I looked at it, I was not going to be happy with anything less than the total comfort level of my patients.
In 1998, Bill called John and I and told us that he wanted to bring Melanie down to meet us. Melanie, she's a really nice person to be around. Physically, she's beautiful. She's very smart.
She had a lot of the same sense of humor that Bill had. When Bill was making jokes, Melanie would be right in there.
He liked to razz people. She would razz him right back. He really was crazy about her.
What was your relationship with Bill like in the beginning?
In the beginning, it was the challenge, it was the chase. It was, we had a bit of a tempestuous relationship even before we got married. We would break up, get back together.
Bill and Melanie dated for quite a while. They were crazy in love at first, but it quickly became tumultuous. There were infidelities, they'd go back and forth, they'd fight. I think they liked the drama of it.
I think she thought she could make a difference in his life. I think she thought that she could maybe change him, make him happy. She truly did love him.
You guys want some more champagne? Yeah. All right, let me go get a bottle. Because there's nothing in there, is there?
They got married in 1999. It was probably one of the most extravagant weddings we've ever been to.
Mr. and Mrs. William McGuire.
Melanie on her wedding day looked absolutely gorgeous, angelic, you know, just perfect.
Both Bill and Melanie seemed like they couldn't have been happier.
She was a little naughty.
He was marrying a girl that he absolutely loved in a way that maybe he hadn't loved anybody before.
Bill, did you put your hand up? This is the last time Bill's going to have the upper hand.
Bill McGuire got a $65,000 a year job with the New Jersey Institute of Technology.
Bill and Melanie settle into a rented townhouse in Woodbridge, New Jersey.
Woodbridge is a sprawling, densely populated township on the suburban end of New Jersey's industrial flatlands. If you're going down I-95, you're taking exit 11 to get off to Woodbridge.
We were both happy, new parents, and then things changed drastically.
He had a dual personality. He could be very likable, and then on the other hand, he'd be very calculating, manipulate you.
He had always had issues with gambling, and he would go through periods where he would go down to Atlantic City a lot.
There were times that he would just take off to AC and gamble, and you wouldn't hear from him, wouldn't know what was going on.
He found he could make some money gambling. There were good times with that, and there were bad times. And there were a couple of times I put my foot down, and I said, that's it, no more. So then he would get involved in the stock market. He wanted what he wanted, and he couldn't get it fast enough, and with that came frustration, and eventually that frustration became directed at me. There was one particular argument over the phone where he had gotten stopped for a traffic ticket. He had an absolutely atrocious driving record, so I started to argue back, and the next thing coming out of his mouth is, when I get home, I'm going to kill you, I'm going to smash your face in.
It's very difficult for me to think back on it because I actually drove off in the middle of the night, and I had left and I should have stayed gone.
Why did you stay?
I wasn't strong enough to leave.
Did you love him?
I did, and even though, now at this point, bear in mind, I'm having an affair.
What appealed to you about Brad Miller?
He was just very, very tender. I really tried to fight it, but I couldn't fight it.
Life for the McGuires is getting a little more complicated, and then one night, it all erupts.
Bill was probably the most streetwise person I've ever known, and I can tell you he never saw it coming.
Melanie is loving, caring, funny, considerate. We just clicked right away, to the point that I asked her to be in my wedding when I got married.
Love is always patient and kind.
It is never jealous. Love is never boastful or conceited, and is not resentful. Love takes no pleasure in other people's sins, but delights in the truth.
In June 2001, the McGuires were already married for a few years. And even though there was some friction in the marriage, Melanie McGuire decided to have another child.
Little does her husband know just how ill-timed this pregnancy is. Not only is Melanie about to have their second child, she's also having an affair.
Dr. Bradley Miller was a partner in RMA Associates, and Melanie was working as one of his nurses.
He was so kind. I'd come back to my desk after a long meeting with a patient, and there'd be lunch sitting on my desk waiting for me. You know, there was always a little bit of flirtation, banter back and forth.
Melanie was about 38 weeks pregnant, and things changed between her and Dr. Miller.
I was about to go out on maternity leave, and I was sitting actually in his office at his desk. I just mentioned I have a pinched nerve in my neck, and he put his hands on my shoulders and started to rub my back. I really tried to fight it because this was not gonna be good. This was not gonna be good for anybody, but I couldn't fight it.
After Melanie came back from maternity leave, she and Dr. Miller started a full-blown affair, and it seemed like they were falling in love with each other, although they were both married with young children.
Shortly after my second son was born, that's when things began the final descent downhill, if you will.
Melanie and Bill moved to the Woodbridge apartment. This is a townhome. They don't own it, they're renting it.
He was constantly looking at homes. He wanted to end up buying a house before he turned 40.
He did want to move down here to Virginia Beach. We took pictures of houses in our neighborhood, but Melanie just would not hear of it.
They ended up putting a really sizable deposit down on a very nice home in New Jersey.
It was a very nice house. It had quite a bit of land. It was a $500,000 home.
It was very contradictory. She's becoming closer to Dr. Miller, but she's going along with Bill's idea of buying a house.
The marriage wasn't going well at all. So why were you buying this $500,000 house together then?
The idea for me was we had a chunk of money, cash, that we were putting down on this house. In the past, we'd come to points where we had been in similar situations, and ultimately something would happen and he would go and gamble the money away. I figured this at least was an investment.
On April 28th, they're due to close on the house at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and she's in constant touch with Dr. Miller, who's pleading with her not to buy the house. He wants to be with Melanie, and he sees a future life with her.
And Melanie told him that, not to worry about it, it's gonna be okay, I'll take care of it.
After they close on the house, they go back to their rented townhouse. Bill is so excited. He calls John Rice. John said that Bill had never been happier. The last person Melanie speaks to that night is Dr. Miller. She tells him, look, we've closed on the house. Bill's had some red wine. He's asleep on the couch, but when he wakes up, we're going to sort this out, and I'm going to tell him I want a divorce.
Melanie described the events that would happen later on as a big fight.
You and Bill had a horrible fight, yes?
Correct. We fell asleep on the couch, woke up early morning hours, and it was never a bad time for an argument. We're talking probably 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. And it starts on the house. I settled for that house. The hell are you talking about? You settled for that house. It's a $500,000 house. That's not what I wanted.
Melanie says that Bill turned around and said, what I really wanted was a house in Virginia for cheaper, but you refused to let us do that, and so I have to settle. And she says this turns into a very heated argument.
From there, things became more physical.
How physical? In what way?
He shoved a dryer sheet in my mouth. He had a thing about dryer sheets.
The story that Melanie tells about a fight that seems to escalate over a dryer sheet is the same story she told us back when we first spoke with her.
We're still arguing, and there's the laundry basket, and there's a dryer sheet just hanging out of one of the baby's sleeves. He hated them. He thought it was lazy that I wouldn't stand there and put in the liquid fabric softener, and yeah. And it went out of control. This was the type of mother I was, that I would leave this sheet in there for my baby to possibly choke on. Before I know it, I'm up against the wall, and the dryer sheet is being shoved into my throat. And then he just smacked me.
In the face?
Yeah, open hand, because he probably would have broken my cheek if it had been a closed fist. And I looked down, and there's my 2-year-old. I grabbed the baby and went to the bathroom right behind me and shut the door. I just wanted away from him at that point. He said he was leaving and he wasn't coming back, and I could tell my children why they didn't have a father.
Did he say this to you through the bathroom door?
Yeah, through the bathroom door the entire time. I imagine he was packing things and leaving. He was up and down the stairs a lot, but every trip back and forth berating me.
What's the last thing you remember saying to him?
Stop. Stop.
Melanie said he'd driven off and she presumed he was in Atlantic City.
He would have been back. He would have been back. I knew it.
But this isn't just a few days that Bill McGuire is gone. We're talking weeks.
What bothered me was that Melanie never reached out and said, hey, Bill's missing.
She never reported her husband missing, and it's almost 30 days.
The fact that we never heard anything from her was deeply suspicious to me.
Love is always ready to excuse, to trust, to hope, and to endure whatever comes. Love does not come to an end. This is the word of the Lord.
In the early morning hours of April 29, 2004, Melanie McGuire said that she and her husband Bill had a violent fight and that he left and she never saw him again.
Melanie says the next day she got her kids up, she took them to daycare, and she started trying to figure out how she was going to move on with her life without Bill.
And during this, the next day, the day after that, you didn't hear anything from him?
No.
Did you try calling him directly?
No, because this is what used to happen when we fought. You know, I'd call, whether it was to tell him off or to try to apologize or what, we just end up getting back into it again. I'm done now. I'm done.
She retains a divorce attorney, and at this point, she does tell the divorce attorney that she has not seen her husband in a few days. And according to Melanie, the attorney advised her not to file a missing persons report.
My heart broke for her. She didn't deserve, nobody deserved that. But I told her that, you know, she needed to think about herself right now. She needs to protect herself.
I called a business associate of mine who was an attorney. She said, you need to get a restraining order.
State your full name.
Melanie Lynn McGuire.
She had to go in front of a judge and give sworn statement about the incident that happened.
Tell me what happened that brought you to court today for a temporary restraining order.
My husband and I closed on our first house on Wednesday.
That should be a positive thing, shouldn't it?
Yeah, it should. He's been behaving really erratically.
Ms. McGuire, you're safe here. Don't worry.
Melanie explained to the judge how Bill had been violent with her.
Did he hit you, ma'am?
No, not until, well, I don't mean to sound like I had absolutely no part in this. I said some not nice things and slapped me.
As part of the questions, Melanie was asked by the judge if she owned any firearms.
Do you know if there's any weapons?
Not to my knowledge.
This is a sketch of the body that washed ashore near the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel this month.
We're hoping maybe this will give us an edge and maybe identify him sooner.
About a month goes by between the time that Bill disappears and when Sue Rice identifies Bill McGuire after seeing the sketch on local TV. The next thing police have to do is notify Melanie McGuire of the death of her husband.
Melanie was asked to come down to the police station.
officer came out and he says, "Is your husband William McGuire?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "I'm sorry to tell you, ma'am, that William is deceased." And I just burst into tears.
But there's one thing she never asked. How was Bill McGuire murdered?
They did not tell her how and the condition in which he was found.
That would be one of the first questions that I would ask.
The next step was that the Virginia police wanted to speak with Melanie. Melanie agrees, but she brings her divorce attorney with her and another criminal attorney in that practice.
Conducting an interview with the victim's wife with 2 attorneys present is highly unusual. First time I have ever had that happen to me. She was nervous, she was visibly shaking, she made expressions like she was crying, but she never had a tear in her eye. I asked her if she had any luggage, and she informed us that they didn't have any matching luggage.
The next day, Melanie told detectives she suddenly remembered that the McGuires did own a matching set of designer luggage.
I showed her a picture of one of the pieces of luggage that we recovered in the bay, and she identified that as belonging to them.
They asked what kind of person Bill was, and she said he was the kind of person that had a knack for pissing people off.
She asked us, where did we find her husband's vehicle at? I told her at that point, we hadn't found her husband's vehicle. And she said that probably a good place to look would be Atlantic City, New Jersey. She also informed us that her husband had a gambling problem.
Did he get involved with the wrong people? That's what I would have to believe, that he had gotten himself into something, and Bill always thought he could handle everything.
He was always into some kind of a deal, so I think maybe this deal was his last deal.
After the interview was done that evening, we also conducted a search at their old apartment building. The apartment was empty. She had already moved out.
They asked him about Bill's possessions and his clothes.
We discovered that Miss McGuire had already given all of her husband's belongings away.
Virginia Beach detectives find out that Melanie McGuire had given most of Bill's belongings away to a friend's cousin, and they wanted to track that man down. Eventually they did and found out that most of Bill's clothing was still in black trash bags, much like the bags that contained Bill McGuire's body parts.
The garbage bag, by sight, looked identical.
Things are starting to make sense with the detectives. There's the black trash bags, and there was also the hospital blanket that the head was wrapped into. And they're thinking, well, Melanie McGuire is a nurse. That's kind of an odd coincidence.
At Melanie's suggestion, detectives start to search Atlantic City for Bill's car. And lo and behold, that's exactly where they find it.
The Atlantic City forensic unit processed Mr. McGuire's vehicle. They took photos, they fingerprinted, they vacuum cleaned the floorboards.
The body was released to Melanie on a Tuesday. Immediately she had him cremated. And the funeral lasted all of 10-15 minutes at the most. She called the following evening after the funeral, and at that point I just kind of blasted her. I just told her, I said, Melanie, Bill deserves so much more. And Mel just said, well, I'm a single mom now, and now I've just got to get on with my life. I said, well, no, the next thing is we've got to figure out who did this to him. And after I got off the phone, I remember hanging it up, and I said, John, she did it. She did it.
Everything pointed to Melanie McGuire.
Through wiretapping her phones, the police discovered the relationship that she was having with Dr. Miller.
It's a eureka moment because it provides motive.
I've told them everything that I know. But they're, they just don't. They want you to break.
What's the last thing you remember saying to him?
Stop. Stop.
People like to believe that someone was capable of committing this type of murder.
Accused of cutting up his body and throwing it into the Chesapeake Bay.
That the person who did that would look like a monster. But sometimes killers look just like Melanie McGuire.
Is there anything else you're not telling me? Like what? Like I killed my husband? Did you? No. Thanks for asking.
A scorched earth investigation was conducted, and the lack of evidence is resounding.
The evidence in this case points to a well-organized, meticulously planned execution of a murder.
Computer searches that said how to murder someone, how to poison someone, basically multiple searches about how you kill someone.
I don't get to be an evil genius and an idiot at the same time.
I believe that Melanie was wrongfully convicted.
Who do you think killed your husband?
Melanie McGuire, once a married mother to 2 little boys and a fertility nurse, is today a 47-year-old inmate at the Edna Mann Correctional Facility in Clinton, New Jersey.
In here, guilt and innocence is irrelevant in day-to-day life. I have 6 numbers and a letter after my name, the same as the woman on one side of me and the same as the woman on the other side of me.
After Virginia Beach exhausted their investigation, they realized all signs pointed north to New Jersey.
My name is Patty Prezioso. I was the lead investigator in the Melanie McGuire investigation and prosecution.
Patty Prezioso was a very driven and highly successful Assistant Attorney General in New Jersey.
You let the evidence guide you and you follow it until it's clear what happened.
She was extremely competent, and it was obvious.
The task force had local police, state police, the Attorney General's office. They decided to treat this case with top priority.
It was clear that he had been shot, and trying to find out if any of the people close to Bill owned a gun was a top priority.
The detectives don't find any record of Melanie buying a gun in New Jersey, so they decide to check Pennsylvania.
They knew that Pennsylvania was close, and a lot of people will go to Pennsylvania for firearms because the gun laws are more lax. There's less of a waiting period, and so you can go in and essentially walk out the same day with a firearm.
It turned out that when the record check was done with Pennsylvania, a record came back that Melanie McGuire had purchased a gun.
I remember plain as day when she came in, because not many women come into the shop. She filled the forms out, and then when she wrote down her occupation, that she was a nurse, that stuck in my mind, because I guess that was the first time I ever sold a gun, to a nurse.
Melanie bought a Taurus 38 Special, and she bought wad cutter bullets.
And that gun was purchased just 2 days before Melanie McGuire said her husband went missing.
And remember, early on, Virginia detectives talked to Melanie, and she never mentioned anything to them about buying a gun.
I had informed my attorneys of the purchase of the gun, and they said, well, if they ask, don't lie, but don't offer any information. And they never asked about a gun.
Melanie bought the gun because Bill wanted her to buy the gun. She could get it, he wanted it. What he wanted, he got.
Because Bill McGuire had a felony conviction stemming from his horrendous driving record, he was barred from purchasing firearms.
You say your husband asked you to purchase the gun, but you purchased a gun just 2 days before your husband went missing.
Of course, it's a coincidence. However, he was on me for a while about that, about trying to get that. And if something was happening, if he was in some sort of trouble, that may very well have been the reason why he was so intent on getting it.
Once the police really honed in on Melanie, they began wiretapping her phones.
Hello. Hi.
The surveillance was so intense that over a 40-day period, they recorded 500 hours of her phone calls.
Every time you get your head back above water, and that hand reaches out from beyond the grave.
A lot of those calls were very cryptic.
Hey.
How you doing? I spoke to, what's his name, about shipping?
Alex.
I didn't want to say name. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yep.
She used the phrase a lot, being cut off at the knees.
At least meet with a lawyer ahead of time who might cut it off at the knees.
Doesn't that look suspicious?
It doesn't matter what it looks like.
She was a little salty. That was her personality, though. She was a Jersey girl.
A lot of them were to her boyfriend, Dr. Bradley Miller.
It was very clear right from the beginning that the relationship with Dr. Miller was different. There was a change in her voice. It was a softer tone.
It's a eureka moment when they realize that she's having an affair because it provides motive. Dr. Miller also becomes a suspect. So one night when Dr. Miller was leaving work, he was going to his car. The detectives came out to confront him.
Dr. Miller was adamant that he had nothing to do with any crime and he didn't know anything about this. And so I think the police said, well, prove it. You know, if you're willing to wear a wire, we'll believe you.
It is now 2:30 p.m., May 31st, 2005. Brad Miller making an outgoing call to Melanie McGuire. Hello?
What's up?
I've told them everything that I know. But they just don't.
They want you to break.
I mean, if you want us to stick together, I gotta know everything now. Before this goes any further.
What do you mean you have to know everything now?
I mean, there's no other secrets between us, right?
That I can think of.
You swear you had nothing to do with us.
Yeah.
And your children's lives. Because I'm standing by you.
Yeah.
In those intercepted phone calls, another friend she was speaking to was Jim Finn.
Melanie met Jim Finn in nursing school, and Jim admittedly had a crush on Melanie.
But once she left nursing school, she never talked to him again. You know, that was it until February 2004, and she suddenly got in touch with him again.
When she needed something, he was someone that, you know, she could manipulate. And she knew he was a lover of guns.
The police also approach Jim Finn because they find that before Bill disappeared, she's been talking to him about the firearms.
She said to him, hey, I need to talk to you. There's some weird stuff going on here, and Bill is acting weird.
Jim, who really still holds the torch for Melanie, and Melanie knows that, says, well, maybe you should get a gun to defend yourself.
Investigators pick up Jim Finn, who also allows them to record his conversations with Melanie. And once they hear what's on those calls, they're satisfied Finn knew nothing about the murder.
The reason I kissed you about buying a gun is because my husband wanted one. He wanted one? Yeah. Not only did he want one, I bought one for him. Why didn't you tell me?
At the time the detective spoke to Jim Finn, he had no idea that Melanie McGuire had purchased a gun. He was surprised.
Is there anything else you're not telling me? Like what? Like I killed my husband.
Did you?
No. But thanks for asking.
Melanie never wavers on whether or not she was involved. It is always a hard no.
I want you to tell me the truth. I'm telling you the truth. I did not do it.
She was under a microscope. Everything she did was being watched. Everything she said was being listened to.
Melanie does something that most people would find a little suspicious.
Investigators start looking at her E-ZPass records. They notice trips to Atlantic City.
She knew that Bill McGuire's car was in Atlantic City because she put it there. That requires 2 drivers. So that means someone helped her.
What investigators find in Atlantic City has them wondering, did Melanie have an accomplice? And if so, who was it? The next set of clues in the mystery of who killed Bill McGuire leads investigators to a 170-mile stretch of toll road, the Garden State Parkway. With Melanie now the prime suspect, detectives start pulling her records. They try to track her movements in the days around her husband's disappearance, and one of those is her E-ZPass statement.
So when investigators start looking at her E-ZPass records, they notice that there were charges for 2 trips to Atlantic City.
On April 30th, 2004, just 2 days after the fight Melanie said that she and Bill had, Melanie does something that is very odd and most people would find a little suspicious.
I'm starting to become more actively angry at him. And I'm thinking, that son of a bitch, I know where he is.
According to Melanie, she decides that he's probably in Atlantic City gambling, so she's going to drive down there and she's going to look for his car.
Absolutely not rational, but get in the car and go down there. And I'm driving down, and I take the first pass on this highway, and I see a dark sedan. There's no way. There's no way. And lo and behold, there it is.
Once Melanie spots Bill's car from the highway, she decides she's going to move his car. Melanie says in the past, when they're angry at each other, it's a way of messing with each other, I guess you could say.
Pull off onto a little side street, and I parked my car, and it was like Mission Impossible. Scooted up to the car, got in, started it, and drove away.
And where'd you put it?
What I believe to be the Flamingo Hotel.
What Melanie said was, I was going to move his car to the seediest part of town, the most annoying for him to find.
That just didn't make any sense, that he was physically abusive to her, but then she goes to mess with a car with a guy that she claims she doesn't want to be around.
It sounds beyond ridiculous sitting here saying it, and I acknowledge that, and I can't, you know, it's the truth.
It's an incredible story, meaning it's just not credible.
We believe she was planting his car in Atlantic City. She was trying to create an illusion that Bill McGuire was still alive. That requires 2 drivers. So certainly that means someone helped her. Someone had her Pathfinder, and she was driving Bill McGuire's car. They put the car at the Flamingo Hotel, and then she went home with the person driving her car.
And investigators thought they'd struck pay dirt when they discovered that hotel's parking lot had surveillance cameras.
In truth, of course, the footage did not capture who the driver was.
The surveillance video from the Flamingo Hotel actually showed the victim's vehicle being pulled into a parking space. Because of the darkness and the glare and the background lights, you could not actually see the person that was occupying the vehicle.
There was another inexplicable road trip, this time to Delaware, 5 days after her husband went missing.
She had shared with Dr. Miller that in the early morning hours of May 4th, she was actually furniture shopping.
Investigators think that this Delaware furniture trip is really just a ruse.
That same road would have taken her to the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel.
Normally, someone would take the New Jersey Turnpike to go over the Delaware Memorial Bridge, picking up Route 13, which runs south to the Chesapeake Bay Bridge and Tunnel.
Patty Precioso says that Melanie actually left the night before from New Jersey, drove Bill's remains to Virginia.
We believe that that was when she took the suitcases with Bill's remains and got rid of them in the Chesapeake Bay. And the first suitcase turned up the very next day.
But of course, Melanie thinks this theory is preposterous.
Virginia Beach is another 450 miles from Delaware. So, I mean, you're talking about hours, and there just isn't enough time.
And why would she drive all the way down to Chesapeake with the body parts in the car, thinking, I'm not going to get stopped, I'm not going to break down? What a chance that is. You know, I mean, you can't stop on a bridge and open a window and throw 3 suitcases out.
Maybe if it was one of these pieces of circumstantial evidence for which you might have a reasonable explanation for 1 or 2, but we're talking a large amount. You can't have reasonable explanations for all of them.
It's a mountain, and it's a lot of coincidences, and that's absolutely.
But coincidences don't always make for the best evidence. And detectives were still searching for any physical evidence that would link Melanie McGuire to her husband Bill's murder.
Where is the proof? Where is the forensic evidence?
The task force is convinced that Bill was murdered and dismembered at their townhouse in Woodbridge, so they concentrate on that.
They went back 4 to 5 times to search for any evidence.
They did everything that you would typically think of, right? They brought in the luminol, pulled down parts of the walls, they pulled out the piping, pulling floorboards up. They really turned this place upside down a number of times.
They were trying to find bullets, traces of blood, and nothing ever came up.
Couldn't find any forensic evidence whatsoever to establish that this was a crime scene.
I don't know how you would dismember a body and effectively clean that up.
Despite that glaring lack of physical evidence, investigators still believe the circumstantial evidence is enough, and they arrest Melanie McGuire.
So surreal. Day like any other, getting the kids off to daycare.
We surveilled her to the school, waited for her to drop her children off.
Walking out of the building, I'm not even off the curb. Melanie McGuire, can you come with us, please? I knew.
2 years and 10 months after the first suitcase washed up, the trial against Melanie McGuire commences in Middlesex County, and it was a sensation.
The evidence will show that while Bill was engrossed in purchasing the house, the defendant was very busy planning his death.
There was no proof that Melanie McGuire murdered her husband.
The prosecutor said either Melanie McGuire is guilty or she's the unluckiest woman in the world.
On Monday, March 5th, 2007, 2 years and 10 months after the first suitcase had washed up in the Chesapeake Bay, Melanie McGuire went on trial for her husband's first-degree murder.
This was a case that had garnered a lot of media attention in New Jersey. It had all the elements that it was going to be a salacious trial.
The judge let us know that the trial was going to be televised.
Let's bring a couple of experts into the conversation to help us sort through yesterday's evidence.
It made people act differently.
I think Melanie loved the idea that she was the center of attention.
She seemed very relaxed, much more relaxed than I would have been.
It was a double-edged sword, because if she sat there, you know, more stoic, she looked nasty or she looked mean. And then when she was being more upbeat and talking to people, oh, well, you know, she's joking around at her own trial. There was nothing she could do that wasn't going to be criticized.
By the time Melanie McGuire gets to trial, she's hired Stephen Tirano and Joe Tacopina to represent her. Joe Tacopina was a high-profile celebrity attorney.
Joe Tacopina.
Joe Tacopina.
Joining me now, Joe Tacopina. He's the attorney for Alex Rodriguez.
He feels just as comfortable in front of a TV camera as in front of a jury.
A scorched earth investigation was conducted, and the lack of evidence is resounding.
The evidence in this case points to a well-organized, meticulously planned execution of a murder.
Is that a fair description of you? Were you somebody, if you were going to do something, you were going to do it all the way?
Correct. And I would counter that argument with, if that's the case, then I would have been sure to not include blankets that could be traced to me, my own luggage. I don't get to be an evil genius and an idiot at the same time.
They're not going to be able to tell you where William McGuire was killed, how he was killed, when he was killed.
The defense were really trying to play to the jury that Bill was a major gambler and he may have owed thousands and thousands of dollars.
He was a big gambler because he gambled beyond his means. When you have money out on the street and you're behind, and you're not making payments, you know what happens? You get shot here, and you get shot here.
As prosecutors start laying out what they believe Melanie McGuire did to Bill, it all starts with something they found in his car after it was processed in Atlantic City.
When investigators first recovered Bill's car, they found a bottle of chloral hydrate, a red liquid, and also a syringe in it.
State's Exhibit 983. Do you recognize that?
Yes, that's the vial we dispensed the liquid in.